This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. A big game day edition because we got a monster game tonight at IG Field as the Bombers look for a little payback against the British Columbia Lions. We all remember that Week 3 tilt. Well, the Lions handed the Bombers their lunch 30-6. The Bombers' first home loss to a Western Division opponent since 2018. And tonight, they get a chance to get back at the Lions and get back into a tie for first place in the Western Division. We're going to have lots on this game. Darrin Bauming's going to jump on first. And our pal Dustin Nielson from Edmonton Sports Talk. And, of course, the voice of more or less the Western Division in the Canadian Football League. Dusty's in town to call the game. He'll jump on a little later on as well. And in between that, a visit from our pal Brandon Rewucki, little off-season Jets and NHL talk, and more with Rue coming up on what should be a really, really fun show. Great to have you all with us. Folks, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button. And a special thanks to Jay Miller, who is now an official supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk. You can do that on the YouTube channel. I think it's $2 a month. Get that flashy microphone, the use of some exclusive emojis. I believe that's what they're called in the chat. And again, just another way of helping us do what we're doing for Winnipeg sports fans every day here on WST. Jay, you're the man. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the game tonight. Just before we bring in Remis, big thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen every day. Coolbet Canada, brand new lock shop with our weekly picks for the CFL. Check that out on the Lock Shop YouTube channel. Lock Shop Bets. Subscribe over there, too, while you're at it. Our friends at Princess Auto, that tailgate's going to be rocking. 5:30 p.m. it opens. Get there early tonight. Consolidated Supply, Royal Sports and Boston Pizza, Breezy Bend, Aikens Lake, Little Brown Jug, Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Nick and Nicky DQ, F Apparel, Wallace and Wallace, Vita Health Fresh Market, Modern Man Barbershop and Aquatech, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club. We'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Auto Corp at Waverly and McGillivray, as well as our friends at Assiniboia Downs, who today, really just now, is just completing the field for the Manitoba Derby on Monday. And a special thanks to Darrin, Cherry, and our friends at Assiniboia Downs. Had an amazing time there last night with my folks. The food still undefeated at that incredible prime rib buffet, and hit a few winners as well. Actually, shout out to my mom who banged off a little triactor on her way out in race number 5 last night. Great night. No better spot on a summer evening, especially one like last night, than Assiniboia Downs. Let's get going. Welcome to everybody in chat. Shout out to everybody listening on the podcast. And shout out to you, Michael Remis. What is going on?
Just looking at the weather for tonight's game, Huss. It's going to be a hot one. What does it say here? Right now it has 25, feels like 30. So bundle up for tonight, or no, sorry. Wear appropriate clothing for tonight. Should be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be steamy. It is going to be hot. And man, this should be a hell of a game. As they say, we'll spend plenty of time talking about this game as when Darrin Bauming comes with us, and as well as a little bit more between us, and with Dustin Nielson a little bit later on. Listen, we were speaking about this before we went on the air, but did I hear correctly that Taylor Swift is actually going to be coming coming to Canada?
Yeah.
When did this development happen?
Sorry, when you said what is up, what I glossed over was the part where I just became a verified fan, Huss, for Taylor Swift. Signing up not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 shows in Toronto next November.
Is she playing the Dome or is she playing the arena?
The Sky Dome, Rogers Center. So the first weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think one of these might conflict with Grey Cup. They haven't officially announced the Grey Cup dates for 2024, right? Have they?
For the following year?
Yeah, not this year's Grey Cup, but next year's. Like, do they have the date?
That's a great question. Let me just see. Grey Cup.
It says BC.
2024.
It just says BC. It's going to be. It says if existing scheduling formulas are used, it would be played November 17. That's what Wikipedia is predicting. The third Sunday of November, but they could move up the season. So that Taylor Swift that I just registered for could conflict with next year's Grey Cup. Anyways, two weekends though, 6 shows. That's like insane. 2 weekends of shows in one city.
That is incredible.
Good for her.
I would love it. You know what? Maybe T Swift can be the juggernaut that helps influence further moving ahead of the Canadian Football League schedule. Yeah. I'd be here for that. I have no issue with that whatsoever. I heard Kevin Donnelly on the air talking about what a Taylor Swift concert would mean for Winnipeg, and he said it's the equivalent to one concert is the equivalent to 20 Grey Cups.
Yeah, that's crazy. And there were a lot of complaints that it wasn't in any shows in Canada, and then she just popped 6 in Toronto. I guess a lot of people surrounding areas, Toronto. Buffalo, U.S. Like people travel for these shows because she doesn't go. So for 2 weekends at the Rogers Center, craziness. So I'm verified. I'll let you know how that goes. My brother, he's like, just do it. I'm in.
Do you have to buy? Do you have to pay or anything like that?
No, I just have to give him all my personal information so they know how much I love Taylor Swift.
Did you have to go down give a top 10 of your favorite Taylor Swift songs?
No, just. They sent me
my favorite secret song from the Eras tour was definitely from the Philadelphia show where she played. I don't know enough songs to.
I don't know what my favorite song would be. I'm really not a big Taylor Swift guy. And Comet says in chat, I don't get Taylor Swift. I'm old. You don't have to get it. You just have to see that she's on this insane tour that's making so much money, and there's 6 shows in Toronto, which is also crazy.
She's the biggest star in the world, and it's not even close. And I mean, to be honest with you, is she the biggest star of all time? And I know that sounds crazy, but has anyone ever else done 6 shows in Toronto?
Yeah.
Everywhere she goes, the demand for this concert, these concerts has been, as big a ticket demand as I can remember for anything. And that includes Super Bowls and the biggest sporting events. So anyways, I would not consider myself a Swiftie, and I don't have a great grasp of the T Swift catalog, but I certainly don't dislike her, and I actually have a lot of respect for her with what she's done. She's incredible performer, and as far as a business person, she has no peer. So,
hey.
And anyways, don't go dissing Taylor Swift to any Swifties because, if you thought Beyonce's Bayhive would take you out back, just wait till the Swifties get a hold of you. So it's either get in line or get with it, or just back the you-know-what up and let the Swifties do their thing for 6 nights in Toronto.
I know this isn't Winnipeg Taylor Swift talk, but I did see a report yesterday that she gave $55 million in bonuses to every person working on her tour. So 100,000 bonus to the trucking guys and the lighting guys and everyone just got massive bonuses because she just doesn't know what to do with all this money she's raking in.
You know what? As I say, she seems like a great person, incredibly talented, and people love her. And maybe this was all the pandering from all our politicians who were trying to, curr favor with all of the Taylor Swift fans out there by, going that extra mile and tweeting her, or sending her an X to come to Canada.
Speaking of that, I actually got a plugin for Google Chrome because I got so confused looking at my tabs, seeing the X. I kept looking for the bird. I got a plugin that changes the X back to the bird, so I don't have to see that stupid thing anymore. So I check I just Googled it. It's the best. I have the bird now on my feed.
Listen, I'm all in on X.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I've kind of come around to it, and I think the X is it's better than the bird.
No. X is a joke, and we make fun of it.
The site
we're
just
making
keeps
fun
on
of
getting
it.
better. The site just keeps on getting better. I'm going to do some X posts a little later on today. All right. Well, anyways, we've covered the big news about Taylor Swift. You know what? While we're talking tickets, we may as well mention this right now, and I think we're going to get into this a little bit more next week. But I know there's been plenty of talk about, ticket sales for the Winnipeg Jets and, the team working, very hard to sell season tickets. Some of the things that they really haven't had to do in the past coming out of the drive to 13,000. I will tell you, I had the opportunity to get a little bit of a sneak peek at some of the renovations of Canada Life Centre today for season tickets in the premium area, like the P1s and the Club Lounge. It's incredible. I mean, as someone that was there when the building, working for them when the arena was built back in 2004, to see how different a facility it is right now. And I can tell you what, if you're a club seat holder or a P1, again, I don't have the exact details as to who has access to this, but I believe it is essentially your center ice seats and the traditional club seats are going to be in for, are going to be very pleasantly surprised, I think, when they get to the arena for an exhibition game before the regular season gets going. Some really innovative stuff that they put in there, and the arena's going to look quite a bit different. If you've been to the last couple Seabears games, you've seen the amount of work that's been happening up in that north end. It's all seemingly coming together. So there's a little tidbit for you. I didn't take pictures or run around. Obviously, there's still lots of work to be done, but that is going to be really interesting to see how it goes this year. But the other thing, Reem, was yesterday, the Jets announced that, obviously they've got quarter seasons and half seasons, as well as season tickets. And we had the folks from the advisory committee that had been working on, matching up partners. And listen, as a longtime season ticket holder that's got a couple people that have a piece of my seats, I still maintain the best value, the way to get the best seats, the best experience is to be a season ticket holder. And obviously the Winnipeg Jets recognize the share partners as well for the benefits. So, that's great. But the reality of the fact is that a lot of folks, can't do that, don't have the connections. Now, they did put together, I believe, as our guest mentioned, Tinder for season ticket holders, for season ticket partners. 87% of the drive to 13,000 was individuals, and so many of those seats, more than any team in the league, those seats were divvied up and split up between fans and groups. For whatever reason, if you lose a person or two from your group, sometimes it's made it difficult to, maintain the seats, and then everybody's out. So I commend them, and especially all the volunteers from the advisory committee that have worked to do this. So that's happening. But yesterday as well, Reem, the Jets announced that they are going to have smaller packages, 4, 6, and 8 games, a pretty innovative way of allowing people that might not have the ability, time, or money to be a season ticket holder or a half season ticket holder or even a quarter seat to get some seats for great games and put it all together. And found out a little bit more about that too. And I think this is another thing that, I think that they've had to do it, but I think they are doing a pretty good job. And all that information just released yesterday, as flexible as we've ever seen with the National Hockey League here to get in. And be a stakeholder in the Winnipeg Jets as a ticket holder from as few as 4 games, obviously up to 41.
Yeah, this was an interesting announcement yesterday from the Jets announcing the 23-24 game packs. You get, what, 4, 6, or 8? And the game pack is, normally they'd give a game pack. It's like, here's the, every Tuesday game for the year, or here's the divisional game, or the games, after January, like some other theme. There's no theme to this. It's pick what games you want to go to. And they'll give you, a nice price, I'm sure, better than buying them, the day of. And it's what you get. It's kind of like a box pool. I like box pools. So you get a 4-game pack. You'd get 1 game from the tier 1. You get 1 tier 2 game and 2 tier 3 games. And it's different how many from each tier you get.
Let's go through these games for a minute while we're at it. And if you're listening to the podcast, I had not looked at this, and I just assumed. The Leafs game, the Habs game is obviously going to be in there, but I do see the lowly Chicago Blackhawks is a tier 1 game. Of course, that will be Connor Bedard's first game here in Winnipeg, and that is going to be a hot ticket. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, the tier 1 games, they have Chicago, this Saturday, December 2 at 2 p.m., Montreal, which is always a hot ticket, but that's a Monday, December 18, 6:30. That's a national game. But Friday, December 22 against Boston, 7 p.m. Saturday, Jan 27. That's the Leafs game, 6 p.m. And another Saturday, February 10 against Pittsburgh. I was shocked the number of Saturday games, Saturday 6 p.m.s, are on this year. But if I had to pick one, I don't think I'm picking that Saturday afternoon against Chicago. Bedard, he's coming other times. I would go. I still think it'd be Leafs or Bruins for me. I think I would probably go. It's hard to go against the Leafs. The atmosphere is pretty good. I don't know. I think that's the number 1. I'm not.
What's the date on the Boston game again?
That's a Friday. The Boston one's good. Friday, December 22. I like those games around Christmas. It's always a good mood. Friday, I think Friday 7. You could debate between that and Saturday at 6. The Friday 7 works maybe better for my schedule, but Leafs is a hot one. I think that Saturday, December is a good one too.
Yeah, hey, listen, I don't know how much longer Sidney Crosby is going to be kicking around.
True.
And a Saturday night game in February. That's February 10th? That happens to be my birthday.
There you go.
Although I think I'm going to be out of town this year. A friend of mine's getting married. It's been a long time since I took any extended period of time off, and I think that might be it. And hopefully the Chiefs will be in a big football game the following day. So those are the 5 tier 1 games. I kind of thought that they might have a few more, but I guess those are the games that are in the most demand. Just do a quick rundown of these tier 2 games, that next level.
Yeah, there's a Florida Saturday afternoon, Vegas on a Thursday, Dallas, Buffalo on a Friday. That was one that stood out to me. But Saturday, 6 p.m., look at these Saturday games. 6 p.m., Arizona, McDavid on a Thursday night, Saturday, 6 p.m., Colorado, Avs, nice Saturday afternoon, December 30 against Minnesota. Another Saturday against the Flyers. Remember the Saturday Flyers game last year, Huss? How great that game was? What else? A Friday night
I was not there for that one. I was out of town, and thank God for that.
Yeah.
I watched that from a bar in Kansas City.
Yeah.
That was at the point where I just started to get a bad feeling. That was, I believe, the day before the AFC Championship game. That was right. The team had played so well. That was right before we got into the All-Star break. Morrissey saved the day in the Morrissey game against St. Louis, coming back that week before the break.
Yeah.
But that was right when, that game. Geez, God.
Bonus was not happy. He was not happy after that one. But what about Anaheim on a Friday night? Don't you want to see the Leo Carlson? His first game in Winnipeg?
Maybe not quite. That's why it's not a tier 1. It's not Connor Bedard.
It's not Connor Bedard. That's the number 2 pick. And Edmonton getting 2 tier 2 games for McDavid. Ottawa on a Saturday. Look at all this. I'm shocked. I swear this is more Saturday games at 6 p.m. this year than the last 2 years combined.
Put together.
Yeah, that's crazy. The Jets must have been like, hey, quit screwing us over here. Give us some Saturday games, because They had a lot of Sunday night was kind of their night for a while, but did they dump hometown hockey? Like they still have national Sunday games, even though they dumped the. I'm not sure, but I find that interesting how many Saturday games they have this year.
Yeah, well, I'm happy. I mean, there's nothing better than the Saturday night games, and obviously, you maybe get a little extra exposure on Hockey Night in Canada. But I mean, as just for someone that goes to most of the games, 6 o'clock on a Saturday night, get down there a little early, have a couple, something to eat. You've still got some time to go out downtown. It's that'll be great. And then obviously, a ton of games, that are more the weekday games when you put them into Tier 3, but still tons of great games. Hell, the LA game.
That's okay.
The LA game is the Tuesday. That's the return of PLD. That's the second game of the season.
Yeah, I looked at Tier 3. The second game of the year against PLD. That was the clear winner for me of them.
Well, and here's something that I'll just throw out because I did speak with a couple folks over at the Jets today. I'm just getting a little bit more information about these, how they're going to work. Obviously, I'll let the staff there and the professionals can fill you in on exactly how everything is going to work. But if you are interested in getting these and getting the best seats possible, just go over and there's a pre-sale sign up right now where you pick your games. And they will be, I guess, distributing the seats for these games in the order of of people signing up for this pre-sale before they go on sale to the general public. So go over to the Jets website right now and check those out, and hopefully we'll see you together. And listen, I'll give a little tease. I think there is the potential, coming off some great events that we've put together with the WST crew, is actually maybe putting together a little Winnipeg Sports Talk pack of 4 or 5 games. I mean, I would love, big picture, as someone that's at pretty much all the games and not in the press box, I would love to, have like a real supporter section. I mean, where, the hardcores are together and have some fun chants and all those things. And, maybe that's something that could build from this. But once I heard that they were doing smaller packages, I thought that, this might be something that would be available, accessible to fans, whether you're, younger and don't have a ton of money, or someone that just doesn't have a ton of time but wants to pick and choose 4 or 5 games to work out with everyone. So we'll have more on that next week. But in the meantime, take a look at the schedule, WSTers. There's your homework for the long weekend. Check the schedule. Check out what they put together for those packages. And if we're able to put together a little WST pack, would love to get feedback on what games would be the best for you guys. And we'll work on some special features of that package, and potentially maybe a road trip as well. So there you go. It's all over at the site right now. Give us your feedback on that. We'll talk a little bit more about it next week and see if we can make that happen. Randy D, WST Jets section. Love it. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I would love to do it where if we're at the point, much like they said, Tinder for season ticket holders, if we wanted to put WSTers together as far as sharing seats, I think that would be really beneficial for the club. But early on, we saw how much fun we had at the Gold Eyes game, bringing everyone together. We know that the Jets probably drive more conversation on this show than everything else put together. I would absolutely love to do a little hosting down at the rink and getting the crew together for 4 or 5 games. So that's something that we will be working on. But in the meantime, if there's some particular games that you think would work great for a WST event, you let us know. Send us a tweet, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Many different ways to get a hold of us. All right. We are going to have Rewucki come on, maybe talk a little bit more about that schedule in the upcoming season, Rasmus Kapari's deal, and more. But we got a big football game to get to, and I am looking forward to bringing in the host of Bonfire Sports, Darrin Bauming. Just before we do that, a big shout out to our friends over at Modern Man Barber Shops, now with 8 locations in the city of Winnipeg, including the newest ones on Pembina Highway or on Plessis Road. Modern Man Barbershops offer a variety of grooming services for you fellas: haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Great selection of men's products as well for both hair, and more. Book your look, make an appointment, get them down there, modernmanbarber.com. And make sure to give them a follow on Instagram as well, at Modern Man Barbershops. Our friends at Aquatech have a lot going on this week because it's the in-store summer staycation sale with everything in stock on sale with 10% off. Of course, they are the leaders when it comes to pools. Maybe make you 2023 the year you take the plunge. You can visit their team at aqua-tech.ca, or if you pop in for the staycation sale, their team can provide on-the-spot pricing from designers and financing options. And whole home renovations start with Aquatech as well. But now is the time to get on down to Aquatech for the summer staycation sale. 10% off everything in stock. And by the way, keep an eye on our Instagram starting on Tuesday for you golf fans, because we're going to have some passes for the Players' Cup. You get on and see the stars of the PGA Tour Canada, Winnipeg Jet Morgan Barron, amateur champ Braxton Kuntz from Breezy Bend. So pay attention to our Instagram on Tuesday for your chance to win some tickets courtesy of our friends at Aquatech. Are you ready for the long weekend? If not, you better give a holler to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. Batteries for everything at the best price in town. Whether you need it for a boat, a camper, a Sea-Doo, an ATV, they've got it all. And they'll beat the pants off the big box stores when it comes to price. And not only will you get the best price in town, you're not going to find any more convenient operation than Manitoba Battery, because they'll deliver it to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's that easy. Save time, save money, shop local. ManitobaBattery.com is where you can make your purchase. Give them a phone call as well that can help you through it. And you could always pop in and see them in person as well at 1026 Logan Avenue. And hey, it's game day. It's going to be pushing 30 degrees, sunny outside. A lot of the smartest fans have already booked Friday off, which means maybe an extra CC and ginger tonight at the game. Canadian Club is the official sponsor of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and WST, available throughout IG Field. Obviously, the Rum Hut will have all the Beam Suntory products, but if you want a great one, maybe a little bit of a change up from your normal beers, CC and ginger, pick it up today, and you can also grab it in cans over at beer stores. All right, let's get ready for this tilt tonight. I cannot wait to see what happens. The host of Bonfire Sports, who will be having post-game coverage for you tonight on the channel, Darrin Bauming, joins us now. DB, this is a big one. How are you? You ready to go?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready to go. I don't know if you can see.
Yes.
I got my game face on. This is a huge tilt, Hustler. Like, no hyperbole, no exaggeration. This game tonight is the biggest game in the CFL this season, and could be the biggest regular season game we'll see all year. Of course, September and October will bring some, games with division implications, but this is not a 4-point game in the standings. Well, this is a 4-point game with 6-point implications. The BC Lions are a game up on Winnipeg. A win will put them 2 games up on Winnipeg, so that would be the 4 points, but it would also secure them the season series, which is the first tiebreaker if these two teams finish with the same record at the end of the season, which they could very well do. So, remembering the 30-6 dismantling of the Blue Bombers the BC Lions were able to do 6 weeks ago is going to be fresh in the minds of the players as much as it is the fans. You better buckle up. This game is going to be hard-nosed slobber knocker football. I can't wait for tonight.
Yeah, we're going to chop it up with Dusty, who's calling the game a little later on in the program today. But let's focus on the Bombers first. It will look a little different than week 3. I think from a defensive perspective, having Jackson Jeffcoat is such a difference maker. In his own matchups, as pressuring the quarterback, I think Derek Taylor told us he's number 1 in the league when it comes to getting to and making the quarterback's life miserable, but it's also the effect he has on everybody else. I mean, you look at the amount of extra space and just the damage that Willie J's done in games that Jackson's been, it has been significant. And doesn't matter whether it's VA, Dane Adams, or Evans, or whoever they throw out. Getting to the quarterback is key. That's what BC did to the Bombers in week 3 of this season. And Jackson Jeffcoat's certainly going to give the Bombers a much more formidable attack up front. And of course, then you can touch on Kyrie Wilson returning to the roster as well.
Yeah, I'm watching the Blue Bombers defense incredibly closely this week because they are the strength of this team. You know, you can talk about Zach Collaros, Kenny Lawler, Dalton Schoen, Brady, the O-line all day long. I get it. You know, that often leads the marquee in football, the quarterback and the offense and scoring points. But the Winnipeg Blue Bombers' strength has been their defense through those 2 championship seasons and through last year where they tied a league record, tied a franchise record with a 15-3 finish to the season. They have not played their best football as of late. I would argue that they've definitely let some quarters and even some halves of football slide. And, the Edmonton Elks haven't been able to do much against anybody this year. They were able to get 14 points on Winnipeg. I'm not hanging that entirely on the defense. The offense wasn't able to stay on the field in Winnipeg's last game. And that one coming against Edmonton, but they better be on their P's and Q's against a BC Lions team that can beat you in so many different ways. If anybody can push Winnipeg for the strongest overall receiving core in the CFL, it's the BC Lions. Dominique Rhymes comes back into the lineup. Keon Hatcher, Alex Hollins has just been, he was a Blue Bombers killer in that game 6 weeks ago at IG Field. Winnipeg's defense, they got to get to the quarterback. And I'm glad DT, gets those stats. That's an important one. Everybody looks at the sacks and Matthew Betts leading the CFL with 10. Everybody looks at those numbers, but the way Jeffcoat is able to get to the quarterback and just disrupt what's happening should not be overlooked. Willie Jefferson, a knockdown can be almost more deflating to a quarterback than a sack because they thought they got the ball away. They thought they had a target and they don't. Willie, gets up there and knocks it away. It's crazy to think that a defensive lineman is amongst the league leaders in pass knockdowns. And those are all DBs. So, getting Winston Rose back, getting Kyrie Wilson back, I think most notably will help this Blue Bombers defense maybe stabilize their consistency in how they play and have been playing. Don't look past Kyrie Wilson. This guy is all-star caliber. And since the injury to Malik Clements at weak side linebacker next to Adam Bighill, getting Kyrie Wilson back in there after 12-month recovery from a torn Achilles is absolutely huge in a very, very important and thin spot in Winnipeg's defensive lineup.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. To me, though, listen, this is an incredible matchup. You kind of laid out everything that's at stake, how good these two teams have been so far this season. But to me, Darrin, I think you and most people are going to be focusing on the matchup on the line of scrimmage between the Bomber offensive line and what the British Columbia Lions defense is bringing. It was a mismatch. It was let's just say heavily won in week 3 by BC. And that was part of the reason why Zach Collaros was on his rear end for a good portion of the football game. This is a very proud group. There has been plenty of talk out there. And listen, some of it's legitimate. Father Time is undefeated. These guys have been here playing at a very high level for a long time. Nothing lasts forever. I imagine that this will be the most focused and determined group of O-linemen playing in front of Zach Collaros will be there. And this is where the game will be won and lost, on the line of scrimmage. And let's face it, the offensive line is going to need a hell of a lot better performance than they had earlier this season. And I think that they do have that in them.
Yeah, pride is on the line. If you think for a second that pro athletes don't follow the media or the news or fan sentiment, they're out and about in the community, CFL players especially. They know what's being said about them. They know they're being told, well, this isn't the same Blue Bombers offensive line as years past. They're not as dominant. Oh, they're, a couple of those guys are getting older. They're not, the best in the league anymore. At times they've shown to be dominant. The way that they're able to just pound the football with Brady Oliveira. It's as much the O-line as it is Brady in that ball control style of offense. And yeah, Zach Collaros has been pressured and hurried and sacked maybe more this year than he has in the past, but it's not to, a concerning extent, honestly. I know a lot of fans don't, maybe wouldn't agree with that. They are concerned about that, and I get it. But BC, their defense is the best in the CFL, like top to bottom, back end, front end, everything. And they're dressing nine defensive linemen tonight, which means they are going to be fresh. They are going to be coming hot and heavy on a hot and sweltering night at the ballpark. So Winnipeg's offensive line, I expect to see Tui Ellie and Liam Dobson, the two reserves, come in and spell some of those guys in the starting five using some jumbo packages, double tight end sets. Chris Walby talked a lot about this on our pregame show on Bonfire. And they got two fullbacks in the lineup as well. And that could be super jumbo, right? You got two tight ends. That's a jumbo package. You bring in a fullback to block as well. They could do some super jumbo work as well. We know how good Rashid Bailey and Nick Dembski are on those inside slot back spots, blocking in the run game and in the pass game, Wolotarski, the others as well. But Winnipeg's offensive MO tonight is to win the physicality battle. They can't let BC gain momentum and get into Zach Collaros' face. Brady needs to run strong. The O-line needs to pass protect as well as everybody else on that offense. They need to play cohesive, consistent football. Winnipeg has scored points this year. They're nowhere near an average offense. They are above average, but they have been average or below average for streaks during games this season. That consistency, like I was talking about on the defense, they need it on the offense too. Again, we know how important this game is. We're going to be talking about the implications of this game tonight in October and November. Mark my words, we will be talking about the result of this game when we're looking at the postseason. So, they got to go out there and hit the BC Lions in the mouth. That starts on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, listen, folks should get to the game day edition of Bonfire Sports and listen to everything that Walby has to say heading into this game. Might be a great little pod listen in the parking lot or on the way to the game tonight. But fill us in on, for people that didn't see it, just Chris's feeling about the offensive line. There's nobody that knows O-line play and this team better than Chris Walby. Where's he at about this challenge tonight and, what's in store for those guys up front protecting Zach Collaros when the kickoff goes after 7:30?
Yeah, I won't put words in the Hall of Famer's mouth, but, he shared, him and I share a very similar sentiment about this O-line. They haven't been as dominant, but they're still very, very good. And that ball control I talked about, the way Brady, they're able to just put the ball in his belly late in games and kill the clock, kill a whole quarter with, a 9 or 10 minute drive, like they've shown a couple times this year, is valuable. But, if you read between the lines in what 63 says, and you listen to how he answers questions about the criticisms around the Blue Bombers offensive line, it comes down to him saying BC is not just dressing 9 guys, but they are also incredibly talented. David Menard, Takema, Woody Barron, they got a lot of guys that can really come, in addition to Matthew Betts, who's having a most outstanding defensive player caliber season for the BC Lions. Coverage sacks are something people talk about in football when it's not necessarily the D-line beating the O-line and getting to the quarterback as much as it is the defensive backs covering so well that it forces a quarterback to just hold onto the ball too long. That could very well be a factor tonight as well. I think having Kenny Lawler in the lineup compared to 6 weeks ago when Winnipeg lost to BC when they didn't have Lawler, I think will be a positive for the Blue Bombers. But when you talk about Marcus Sales and you talk about Gary Peters and TJ Lee and the guys that they got on the back end of that BC Lions defense, that could be, the most talented defensive backfield in the CFL today. BC is loaded. Don't think for a second that because they're coming in here with a number 2 quarterback in Dane Evans, that they're going to be, handled easily by Winnipeg. BC's coming in and trying to show everybody that they're the best team in the West, that they're the best team in the CFL. They're the only team, the only team to beat them this year is the Toronto Argonauts, who are still undefeated. So BC's coming in with something to prove as well.
Well, that was also, of course, the infamous 6-pick game by Vernon Adams. And of course, he won't be there tonight. Remis has beat me to the why not question of the day for not Autocorp overly at Waverly and McGillivray, but it's in the chat right now, and it's pretty simple. Is this a must-win game for the Blue Bombers? I mean, in reality, I know we're not even into the second half of the season. Everyone says the season really starts at Labor Day, and I get that. But I'll tell you what, if you feel that home field advantage and that extra week of rest for the Bombers is important, which I absolutely do, especially if we want to talk about the age of this team and what they'll go through, you got to have this one tonight. And as T. Conopoli just mentioned in chat, Bombers win this game. And my God, does that set up a monster tilt October 6th in British Columbia, which would be for the tiebreaker. And for all intents and purposes, you would think the division, although, we'll see whether BC loses to other games. And obviously we'll see if some of the other teams in the league, not named the Bombers, Argos, or BC, sort of, get things going and, find themselves able to knock off those other teams. But Darrin, I mean, must win might be a little strong, but this is about as close to it as you could possibly have. And I said to Dusty earlier today on the Lock Shop, I mean, for sure, this is the 8th game of the season for these teams. But when you look at the schedule, when you look at the landscape of the Canadian Football League in the Western Division, I'm with you. I don't think there's any doubt that at the end of the year, regardless of who wins this game tonight, you'll look back at this Thursday at the beginning of August as one of the most impactful regular season games of the year. And Bombers better be ready for a big test, even on short rest, coming off a game on Saturday.
A real reality in 2023 in the CFL is we might see an East Division crossover to the West, which really hasn't happened ever. If it has happened once or twice,
no, I don't think so. No, it has never happened.
Time if it has. But to answer the question as briefly as I can, if you ask Mike O'Shea or anybody inside that locker room, is this game a must win? They'll say every game is a must win. The reality from us that get to look a little bit bigger picture is no, it's not must win. It's August. But that home game with a crossover, but potentially being a thing, that's going to be important, because that's the way shockers have happened in the CFL is a team people sleeping on, on the road will end up, making a run towards the Grey Cup. I don't see it as a must win, but I do see it as if they don't win, if Winnipeg doesn't win, the magnification of this team's flaws, and every team everywhere, every season has flaws, but that magnification of the flaws and the focus on them and the volume of criticism will be greatly increased, because expectations, as have been the case the last number of years here in Winnipeg, Hustler, we all know what it is. It's Grey Cup or bust. And Winnipeg is trying to get back to the dance for a 4th straight season. So you start that conversation of they're not the best team in the CFL. They're not the best team even in the West Division. It might be something people will be talking about for a long, long time. The schedule upcoming: Edmonton, Calgary, Montreal, and then the home and home Banjo Bowl Labor Day Classic series with the Rough Riders. A little bit easier schedule in the middle stretch here. To me, this game is the most important they have all season so far, and it's the most important they'll have for a good stretch moving forward. So, I understand people saying it's a must-win game because it's about as close as you can get in August.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Darrin Bauming of Bonfire Sports is with us. Of course, it was Stanley Bryant who jumped on the midweek show of
Jamarcus.
Or it's Jamarcus, excuse me.
With the Hardrick hop on.
Yes, and Listen, I mean, it was great. Another thing people should check out. I've heard from, and we had Rashid Bailey, and like Sheed is
great.
so unique. I mean, the guy's got so much passion in his voice, and like he didn't come right out and say that this was the game that they've been thinking about since week 3.
Right.
I sort of got that from him that he did, and I know Mike O'Shea and the way he runs his operation doesn't want to make things bigger than they are. Doesn't want to add fuel to the fire of what we are talking about. But I'm sure you got from Stanley and being around the team this week that, yeah, it's week 8. It's another game in the regular season. But this isn't just another game in the regular season.
No, like they're never going to say we want revenge or retribution, against a team that beat us earlier this year. But that wasn't a 31-28 loss. That was a 30-6 loss at home against a team, that was 2-0 at the time in the BC Lions. But nobody was expecting BC to be this good. Nathan Rourke goes to the NFL. Okay, they add some pieces in free agency. They retain a lot of guys. They have continuity on coaching, but nobody expected BC to be pushing the Blue Bombers around. And they came in week 3 and pushed the Blue Bombers around. They beat the crap out of the Calgary Stampeders in week 1. Everybody was like, is this for real? Is this a mirage? What team is this BC Lions? Then they get a quarterback injury and they continue to win. They continue to look just as well-rounded as always. That said, Hustler, they won't talk about revenge. They won't throw fuel on the fire in that respect, but there is zero question in my mind that the pride of the Blue Bombers playing at home is not on the line. It is most definitely at the forefront of everybody's mind that a team that kicked the crap out of them just 6 weeks ago is back again, and Winnipeg gets another crack at them. They are going to be fired up. And I'll say it again. Physicality is going to win the day because they're both talented. They're both very well coached. They're both going to game plan very strongly for one another. They have lots of film on each other at this point in the season, CFL Week 9. Everything is in place for one of these teams to find a way to come out on top. It's going to come down to who plays more physical football. And I just expect Winnipeg to really bring it. I think Winnipeg will win tonight. They'll, Jamarcus Hardrick on our show, as you were talking about, he said the Blue Bombers home fans are their cheat code. It's like that cheat code in a video game that just gives you that little bit of advantage, that little power boost late in the fight that helps you come out on top. And, Winnipeg is not going to lay down and let the Lions come into Winnipeg and push them around like they did.
Well, and I think, the offense will hope that maybe they'll have some time to think. The fans can really be difference makers when it comes to when Dane Evans is on the field. And I'll say this. I mean, I've been doing the lock shop with Dusty for a long time. We pick every CFL game. I think we have for the better part of the last 3 years. I've never been more puzzled by a line and a line movement than the one in this game. When we did the show on Tuesday, the lines had just come out and the Bombers were 4.5-point favorites. And I was surprised that it was that high. And I said, well, listen, considering what the Lions have been doing this year, like I'm kind of thinking that this ends up around 3. It's 6. And I know that the Bombers are the Bombers. And I understand that the BC Lions played on Saturday and the Bombers are coming off a bye, and I'm sure that is a big part of it. But I'll be honest, Darrin, I am stunned that we haven't seen it go back. And I mean, it looks like the Bombers are going into this game as 6-point favorites. And as much as I don't bet against my team, I wasn't about to lay 6 at home. I went to the total for our pick on this one. Any thoughts on at least outside of this market, if you want to see how things really go, follow the money. Are you as surprised as I am that the Bombers are 6-point favorites tonight?
No, because I see the odds makers with CFL lines getting a lot smarter than they have been for a number of years.
I hope they're right.
Sure. I'm sure you are. And I'm sure Bombers fans are, across the board. I think that they're just a lot sharper on betting trends And I think they're a lot sharper on, potential outcomes in the CFL that can be, a team can score a touchdown in the final 30 seconds, like a possession from their own end and score that quickly. And then you could see it come back the other way, like, in a minute, right? Total with scores happening that way. So I do believe that week 3 loss for the Blue Bombers plays into the line that we're seeing in this game because, again, I just think Vegas odds makers are way smarter than they used to be on these CFL lines. I think they used to look at things very objectively. I don't think they do that anymore. I think they do look a little bit beneath the surface of the skin of some of the other things that might be at play. And then, of course, there's, it's Bomber Nation. Right? People are going to bet on the home team. So you make it a number as you just laid out. It makes it a little bit tough to lay 6 down, but 3.5, 4.5, is there even really a difference there? A field goal or versus 4 points? I don't see it that way. If I had to put money down on a game like this, it's probably a money line bet, or I'd probably be looking at props because, I don't trust, the biggest game of the year for first place in the West. To be a game where one team is going to be that much better than the other. I think it's going to come down to a play or two.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm with you. I will not be laying the 6, although I'd love to be wrong and see them blow the doors off, but I think I'm going to be leaning on the under. I think this is going to be 2 incredible defenses going at it. And, as they say, this, 21-17, 21-18, that sort of a game is, I think, what we'll be up for. But I guess we'll see. And
what's the number?
44.5. So
I'll take the over.
Let's see. Well, there you go. We'll
maybe
put
you and I can
on it next week.
We'll put a yard dog on it.
Yeah, a yard dog. Listen. I'm getting. I had enough with the yard dog. If you're wondering what we're talking about, check out the reels on the WST Instagram. Quickly, just on our way out, fill people in on what you got coming up after the final whistle tonight on Bonfire.
Yeah, we go live every Blue Bombers game, home and away. Game day after dark is our post-game show. It's our most popular show, bringing in fans and really, having the conversation. I've been pulling up video highlights and playing those on the post-game as well. The podcast is up soon after, we exit the airwaves. But the pregame show with Chris Walby is where you get your knowledge, right? Well, look at that. Hey, pulling up the numbers for me. Appreciate that, Remo. And Chris Walby brings a level of knowledge and insight few others can because he played 16 years at a Hall of Fame level for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He's played both sides of the football. He was a D lineman before he was an offensive lineman. So, I really encourage people to check that out. And yeah, my conversation myself and Schnitzy had with Jamarcus Hardrick on Bonfire midweek was a ton of fun as well. So lots of good stuff up on the channel. Appreciate it, Huss.
Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll look forward to getting into it with all the Bomber fans in the chat afterwards, win or lose on the After Dark edition after tonight's game. Have a great long weekend. Enjoy this one tonight, dude.
Buckle up. We'll see you at the Madhouse on Matheson tonight.
Let's go. All right, there's Darrin Bauming. We'll have more on tonight's game with Dustin Nielson coming up a little later on. We are going to talk some Jets and NHL offseason, a little bit more with Brandon Rewucki of Skates and Plates. Just before we do that, hey, folks, if you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, groceries, and Winnipeg's largest assortment of local products too, get on down to one of 6 Vita Health Fresh Market stores. Listen, this is long weekend. I mean, this is the epicenter, the prime time when it comes to grilling season. If you want to step up your barbecue game, head on down to Vita Health for grass-fed bison and beef steaks that'll take your meal to another level. And of course, they've also got great fresh delivered grab-and-go sandwiches at the market, and you'll get a free sapsucker drink with every purchase this month of a grab-and-go sandwich or wrap. It is that easy. Get on down, support local at Vita Health Fresh Market, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 6 Winnipeg locations and online with a fully shoppable website. Find out more and check it all out at myvita.ca. Hey, shout out to the Winnipeg Smoke, who had a big win today, upsetting the #1 team from Montreal on the ice in the hockey competition at the World Police and Fire Games. Our friends at Wallace & Wallace are proud sponsors of the World Police and Fire Games and are the official supplier of all the fencing that is on their various sites. If you're having an outdoor event, a wedding, family reunion, or need a temporary fence of any kind for your property or construction site, give Wallace & Wallace a call. Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialist, 452-2700. You can also visit them online at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston. I know we'll be wearing tees. Well, Brandon's going to be wearing a tank top. Sun's out, guns out all weekend for sure. But we do know that kind of back to normal post-summer's around the corner. How's your closet looking for fall, folks? If you need to upgrade your menswear game, you need to get on down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. In a wedding party, talk to them about a 15% discount on suits for the entire gang for the big day. F Apparel is at 190 Smith Street, and you can also find out more. Make an appointment at EPHapparel.com. And hey, we're pushing 30 for the next few days. What are you waiting for? Get on down to Nick and Nikki DQ. Bring your gang, bring the kids. Dive into those summer blizzard flavors. Grab a couple racks of dilly bars or Buster bars for the freezer as well. It is a DQ summer, and our friends at Nick and Nikki are there for you. DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, and the DQ at Niverville. All right, let's get Brandon Rewucki in. Rew, what's going on? How are you, my man?
I'm doing pretty good. What's going on with you?
Well, I'm looking forward to a great weekend. Hopefully coming back with some incredible fishing stories and some picks to regale our viewers and listeners with. But I'll tell you what, and I know it'll be with the guys I'm going out with, there'll be lots of Jets conversations in the boat. But just before we get to that, what do you think about this game tonight? Big one for the Bombers. Little redemption game after what happened in week 3. But man, BC has been a problem this year for everyone they've played.
Yeah, they're a wagon. I mean, they just by this year alone, they've been the best team in the CFL. I don't think there's much doubt about it. I honestly, man, the thing I'm most intrigued about, and maybe what I will feel, it'll make me lean towards how optimistic I'm going to be about the Bombers' chances as we move into the second half of the season, is just how the O-line does. You know, I'm still pretty confident the defense is going to be, you know, when the chips are down, they're going to be just fine. And they've played, I think, maybe better than some people might give them credit for so far this season. And I know Vernon Adams just cooked him up last time around. But to me, by far the most concerning part of that BC game was 3-man rush, 4-man rush, send a blitz. It didn't matter what BC did. They were putting licks on Zach Collaros basically every single offensive snap for Winnipeg. So if the Bombers can, for the most part, hold down the fort, keep Zach clean, give him a pocket to work with, win or lose, I'm going to feel pretty optimistic that, you know, it'll be a battle come playoff time if they meet, but I'll feel pretty good about the Bombers' chances. If they go into this one after being flat out embarrassed earlier in the season and the O-line gets worked yet again, then I don't know, man. I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot to hang your hat on going into September. So that's kind of the one battle I'm looking forward to there, and hopefully the boys got their humble pie earlier on in the season and they'll be ready to go tonight.
Well, I know the fans are going to be ready to go. Should be another great crowd at IG Field, and again, get there early. Princess Auto Tailgate Zone 5:30, and be in full force for that kickoff at 7:30 p.m. Rocking the blue and gold. Let's get to the Jets off season, and Rasmus Kupari signed a 2-year deal at $1 million per. I mean, listen, I think, you know, whether it was $100,000 more or less, I mean, we all knew that it was going to be in that range. But Brandon, we had the quote from Darrell Evans yesterday that I caught up after the trade at the draft in Nashville, and he had said that, you know, Kupari's got size, he's got speed, he's been, you know, a pretty good scorer at the AHL level, but has been playing down the lineup. What do you think the potential is for Kupari with the Winnipeg Jets? You know, on a team where I think there's far more opportunity if you produce and do the things the coaches want you to do, to maybe get a little bit more playing time and move up the lineup.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a boatload of potential. It's not that he can't be a viable player for the Jets, but to me, I kind of see this playing out as Kupari versus Gustafsson for the fourth line center role for the Jets this upcoming year. I like that. I mean, to me, give me a younger guy that can play fourth line center for you that has the capability to put up a little bit of offense compared to some of the options they've had in the past, and they're good at their own end as well. So to me, that's kind of where I see Kupari's season starting. I mean, I don't know how adept he is to shifting out over to the wing. I don't know if Gustafsson's game suits well to the wall either. So I'll be intrigued to see if it's, fourth line center or bust for either one of those guys. But I don't even know who has the inside edge on the job either, Huss. I mean, like, I think they're both coming into this pretty similar NHL careers so far, or pretty similar careers since they've been drafted, right? Like, both in and around the second round, pretty good at the AHL level, but just haven't been able to find a foothold yet at the NHL level here. So I'm intrigued to see what happens there. I might lean a little bit towards Kupari, but I thought Gus in the early goings last year, maybe the points weren't going in for him. I thought he had a little more offensive touch than I remembered seeing from him in his first few stints with Winnipeg. So I'm not expecting the world out of either one of those guys, but I mean, they could be 2/3 of a solid fourth line for the Jets, be a little bit faster, a little more skilled than we've seen in the past. I think that's a pretty good spot for the club to be in down on the depth chart.
Yeah, it's an interesting a battle and conversation about the two. I mean, Kupari scored 3 last year and had 15 points. The year before, he had 5 goals and 13 points, 66 and 57 games, respectively. He certainly played more than Gus, and Gus has had some bad luck with getting injured. But Gus, I mean, I was surprised. I thought Gus played 20 or 20. If you had asked me, hey, how many games did David Gustafsson play last year? I would have said, he played 20. He played 25. He played 46. He never scored a goal. So, listen, I mean, we'll see what that line looks like. But I will say this, at least from what we've seen at the NHL level so far, goal scoring alone, I think there's a little bit more from Kupari. And, again, if you're and I think the advantage, whoever gets that job, I think is going to be on a line that I would expect to play more and to have a little bit more potential to actually, being an impactful line as opposed to just, hopefully treading water and getting off and not getting scored on. Because when you look at the Dubois trade, and I think you can obviously say that, that top 6 maybe is weakened a little bit. The depth that the Winnipeg Jets got by getting Iafallo, by getting Balharry, and Kupari, who presumably fits in that fourth line, I think gives them the opportunity to maybe play some players that had been in third line roles before for the Winnipeg Jets and have proven their ability to play that level on that fourth line. And I'm sure Rick Bowness, I would be willing to make a wager that when you look 20 games into the season, this team maybe has this ice time spread out a little bit more than it's been in the past. And I think that's a good thing, especially when you talk about the grind of an 82-game season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shift to modern day thinking when it comes to optimizing your forward group, right? I mean, it's the same, a little bit different, but to me, it's the same as giving your starting goalie 50-ish games as opposed to 65, which we'll see if that takes place again this season in Winnipeg. But I mean, it's definitely leaning towards, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Just
right?
quickly on that note, if this is Hellebuck's last season in Winnipeg, I want Artur's Urbe numbers. Let's go 79 of 82.
Gotta be a 7 in front of that one. Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to take the under on that one. But I mean, this is a forward group that for how many years? I mean, especially under Paul Maurice, right? I mean, what was the Pomo special? 5 minutes for the fourth line, and you'd have the Scheifele, Wheeler, Connor, that cast of characters getting 22, 23 minutes a night. I do wonder this year if we see, assuming Scheifele's back and everything like that, I wonder how many guys crack 20 minutes up front a night, Huss. Like it might be a little bit more what you're saying here, where we're trying to do this by committee and having more of a rotation just makes us a more difficult team to play against.
Trusting the guys in the bottom 6 a little bit more. And I mean, man, you look at, listen, Adam Lowry had a bizarre season last year because I thought he had a great start. He had that long stretch of not scoring, and, there was a number of players that were in and out. But, man, if you look at what got the Jets into the playoffs, the last 20 games of the season, that was some of the best Adam Lowry that we've seen. And again, in the playoffs, he was arguably one of the Winnipeg Jets best players and was making things happen offensively. I mean, if we can get that Adam Lowry for the majority of the season, probably playing with a Nito Niederreiter or an Alex Iafallo, and allowing a Kapari or who's ever on that fourth line to be playing with an Appleton to maybe a Morgan Barron, who are mainstays on the third line, how could you not play those guys a little bit more? And I mean, the theory is that, top line players playing 18 minutes a night have a little bit more to bring when they're on the ice, as opposed to maxing out those shifts, being on the ice too long, and playing 22 and 23. And what that does, considering the amount of back-to-backs and 3 and 5s and 4 and 6s that you get all season long.
Exactly. And I mean, didn't Vegas do this to a T?
Absolutely.
The season in the playoffs, right? And you could make the case. I don't even think you could make the case. It's probably just fact. Like, Eichel is better than any offensive player the Jets have. Mark Stone is a better forward than anyone, right? Like, it's not like Vegas has no talent up front and they were forced to do it. It was just a decision made that, look, this is the only way we're going to be able to win as a team is by playing a certain brand of hockey. And they went there and did that. Kind of like the Boston Bruins mold. Like, it's almost like I know Vegas has done that for a while, but it's like Bruce Cassidy brought what he did in Boston and transferred over to Vegas. And I mean, you want to talk about consistency year in, year out. The Bruins and, hey, even the Golden Knights for the most part have been some of the more successful regular season teams that we have in the NHL. So, I mean, I think it's long overdue the Jets veered more towards that path. Honestly, I think maybe the biggest concern about them trying to spread out the minutes a little bit more isn't necessarily the third and fourth line, and it isn't necessarily the top line, but it's going to be that second line, because there's just so many unknowns right now. It might have two of Balharry and Perfetti who are trying to make their stamp in the NHL. We don't know what their ceiling is. We don't know what their present is right now either. Like, there's just a lot more unknowns with that second line at the moment. It's a little more of a certain thing when you look at the rest of the Jets roster. But I think that ultimately might play a pretty big part in determining, okay, the fourth line gets 10, the third line gets 13, 14, and is the first line going to be up and above 20 or a little bit closer to 18? I mean, that's right. As it stands right now, it's pretty much the same Jets team as we saw last year. What's ultimately going to determine how many games they win or lose is, are Balharry and Perfetti ready for primetime? That's pretty much what the Jets are banking on at this moment.
By the way, Brandon, as we talk Jets, we've had some interesting happenings in the chat. The Duck has entered the chat representing the BC Lions and is riling everybody up. Folks, don't get sucked in. Duck, it's great to see the passion that you have, but listen, celebrating the Lions and where they're at right now and their great start is great, but this would have been like, us planning a parade last year when the Jets were awesome 25 games into the season. It's a long season, pal, and it could be a long night for your guys tonight. We will see. Anyways, all are welcome in the WST chat. As I said, many of the topics that we've covered, potential moves, I think, we'll have some more information in the next few weeks. We'll see if things change and we can get to that. I wanted to touch on a couple things, though, in the league, though, with you. What was your reaction when you saw Troy Terry get 7x7 yesterday?
I mean, my initial reaction was, whoa, that seemed like a lot, but then it's like, well, the kid's been producing at a pretty high level for a while. It just there was like a little bit of sticker shock at first. Then you take a look at what he's done, and it's, that's some good business by Anaheim there. I mean, he's been able to produce on, realistically, the second or third worst team in the NHL over the last 2 years. Very little help. Is that
why he was able to do that? I mean, I guess that was my question. And listen, the guy had 2 monster seasons. He went to the All-Star game. He had 37 goals and 67 points in 75 games in 2021-22. Last year, I think a regression to the mean, 23 and 61 points. So let's average it out and call him a 30-goal scorer. But if you're a 30-goal scorer, getting every opportunity on the power play, on top line minutes for a garbage team, Is that an investment that you want to make for 7 years at $7 million? I'm torn because he is a good player and he can play. But to me, this reeks of a guy that's getting big money on a bad team. You know, we like, hey, yeah, can he be a first liner? Sure. On a garbage team. Are they any closer to winning games putting that much money into a player like Troy Terry, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I guess my counter to that would be twofold. And one would just be, you know, $7 million is probably around what you have to pay for a first, second line tweener. Like that's probably going to be the going rate right now, and it will be that as the cap starts to move up in the coming years here. So like it sounds like a lot, but I mean, you look at some of the free agent and deals that are signed and what some RFAs have gotten in the past, it's not really that far away from what similar producing forwards are getting. The other one would be that, I mean, show me the forward, show me a team that was burned by signing a young forward to a long-term deal early. And there are very, very few mistakes that are made by teams that do that. And so I would rather push my chips in on a 24-ish, 23, 24, 25-year-old. And hey, you know, at least we're getting him through his prime, and we'll worry about the second, third contract after that. But I ultimately do wonder if you get a little more production around him, things like that, if you don't see his numbers jump up a little bit more. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Clayton Keller deal a few years ago with Arizona, where like the production just wasn't there from him yet. And it was really just a payday based on potential that we think ultimately he's going to be able to reach that spot. And now it's one of the better deals for forwards in the NHL. The kid's lightning in a bottle when he's out there on the ice. I don't know if Terry's contract will ultimately reach that point, but I think it's solid work by Anaheim. And I kind of like the team that they're building. I at least like their forward group. I mean, their forward group, if everything goes according to plan, is going to be real scary in 4 or 5 years. And I don't mind. I don't mind paying a guy like Terry $7 million, knowing that he's going to play on one of my top 2 lines and he's going to be able to put up well over 60 points with either Zegras or with Leo Carlson.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Carlson. I was just about to say, you know, we'll see how he fits in with Fantilli.
I know. I was going to do that.
They didn't take Fantilli, and I'm still laughing. I don't know if you saw that picture I tweeted out from Nashville, but I walked out of the draft on the Friday night or whatever, the first night. I know it wasn't on Friday. And I was hooking up with my buddy Pat Steinberg from Calgary. We're just sitting there talking about the draft, and I look over, and it was a guy in a Pro Ducks Fantilli jersey. I just said, you know what? Listen, unless it's Bedard, you might want to pump the brakes until you make the pick to get the jersey.
What's the rush? What I never understand what the rush is on. Yeah,
there it is.
Don't get, just wait. Especially it's not like this was. I'm trying to think like when Puljujarvi fell, or you know, like it wasn't like this outlandish leap that the Ducks made. Like Carlson Fantilli were pretty much neck and neck for like the last month and a half of the season. So yeah, good for him. Well, I hope you enjoyed wasting $250. See,
the funny thing is that I was stunned. I mean, I think we were on with the IC guys. Remis and I were on with Drew and Ezzy doing the draft at that time. Or was it Dave and Ezzy? Yeah, it was Dave and Ezzy. And I mean, I kind of looked over. I'm like, oh my God, just because we've seen, you know, so many people, every single mock had Fantilli going number 1. And the thing that I was really pissed off about was the fact that Coolbet had the lines up and Fantilli was minus 588 to go. And I think Carlson was like plus 450 or plus 500. So would have been nice to have that sort of insight and forecast. Yeah. But there it was. One other very interesting note about the NHL, and I'm going to get into this with Dusty coming up, but I'm sure you noticed the front office move today with the Edmonton Oilers.
I kind of vaguely saw it, but
the new COO or CEO of hockey operations, which I understand is on top of the president, is Connor McDavid's agent.
I got no problem with that. I got no.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? Yeah. I mean, if you're Daryl Cates, like, here you go. This is your job. make sure this guy stays in Edmonton and you'll be worth every single penny. And being proactive on that stuff probably isn't going to hurt because he is the franchise. Let's face it.
They could pay this dude $20 million a year, and if McDavid signs another contract at Edmonton, it's money well spent. So I would. Is it the most fair way to run a business? Probably not. Is it what I would do if I was in their shoes? Absolutely.
Brandon, what's Boston going to do? They now have clarity on Swayman and Frederick's numbers. They're basically right at the cap. I know there's been lots of talk about Mark Scheifele. There's been lots of talk about Elias Lindholm. Certainly for Winnipeg, I do not see a trade that makes sense, that is possible. Is Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha going to be their 1-2 punch down the middle and then see what happens in the third and fourth line with hopefully guys that can actually even just tread water at that position? For a team that was so historically good last year, it is absolutely wild to see where they are right now, the changes that they've had over the offseason, and the fact that they are at the cap number without really filling either hole left by Krejci or the massive shoes of Patrice Bergeron.
I don't know what the plan is. I really don't. I don't know. I mean, to me, it kind of feels like they had one or two or maybe even three things set up, and they went 0 for 3 on all of them. I just don't know how a team that's in the position they're at, and it'd be one thing if, say, Marchand was gone too, and maybe you're doing we'll take a bit of a step back this year and we'll try to figure things, and maybe next year we don't have to force feed a move to fit a spot right now. We can take a run at things next year. But with Marchand and some of the other guys there, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. I mean, maybe the plan at this point is pray that New Jersey pulls the panic button and makes a move for Connor Hellebuyck, which then makes Mark Scheifele a much more obvious and palatable deal. Other than that, I really don't know, man. And it's not the year to, put all of your eggs in the basket of Zach and Coyle, because Buffalo's no joke anymore. Detroit's kind of slowly making more and more strides year in, year out. And I mean, at some point you think Ottawa's got to go from, blind optimism to legitimate results here. It's a brutal division that they're in. And you really wonder what the ultimate plan is here, or if they're maybe just hoping we can tread water. And by the time the calendar flips and we're getting closer to the deadline, maybe then that's the time for a deal that we can make that can fill a hole or two for us. But I just don't see the logic in what they're doing right now.
You just mentioned three teams that are really interesting to me heading in: Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit. So last year, Buffalo had 91 points in 82 games and missed the playoffs by 1 point. Florida got in and ended up going to the Cup final with 92, and the Buffalo Sabres were 91. The Ottawa Senators had 86 points in 82 games, and the Detroit Red Wings had 80 points in 82 games. I wouldn't say Buffalo's had a really active offseason. Ottawa and Detroit have, and of course made a trade between themselves with DeBrincat. Rank those three teams in your mind going into this season, and will any of them make the playoffs?
I mean, for me, Buffalo's definitely the best of the bunch.
I agree.
I really thought they would go in hard on a stopgap veteran to go alongside Devin Levi. I mean, that's the one thing that scares me with Buffalo. I love their forward group, love their defense core, but man, oh man, are you putting a lot of trust in that kid to carry the mail with Eric Comrie as it stands right now? I mean, that's their 1-2 punch. It's probably the weakest outside of Montreal in that division. And then, I mean, one of the weaker ones until Levi proves himself for any team that has playoff aspirations right now. So you wonder if Buffalo's done there. That's a move I think they can realistically make if they need to at any time. I don't think it would be Connor Hellebuyck, but I think Buffalo, if need be, can pull the trigger on getting Devin Levi some help right now. So I would put the Sabres there. Red Wings and Sens, I think I might go Ottawa. I might lean a little bit more towards Ottawa there. I mean, Detroit's banking on I think Sider and Raymond taking a step into superstardom, and then maybe Edvinsson as well becoming a bit of an impact guy for them. But I just look at Detroit, and it's like, how many middle six guys do you need outside of DeBrincat, who I like the move there for? But it just feels like they're bringing in guys that were better than they had previously, but not real big time difference makers. But you look at what Ottawa did. I don't like the Korpisalo contract at all, but he'll probably be decent for them in net, like good enough in net at least. And if you can get 65 games even out of Jacob Chychrun, that's a pretty good blue line they're building there in Ottawa with a forward group that's been pretty electric these past couple of years. And, maybe Stützle goes from 90 to 100 points this year. So I would say Buffalo, Ottawa, to me, are the two teams. I wonder if they have enough, though, to take down, Boston could have a nightmare year, but if they drop 30 points, that's still putting them in and around.
Still at 105.
Yeah, right? You're still going to be okay for a playoff spot there. So, yeah, I do wonder if they have enough. Florida, with the Stanley Cup hangover and the fact that a bunch of their impact guys are dealing with 8 different surgeries, if they get off to a really slow start, can they come back from that? I might say Buffalo gets into the playoffs, but that might be more of a heart pick than a head one.
Every year, one of these teams does a nosedive. I think we assume the Leafs will be there. Hard to imagine Tampa not being there. The Canes will be there. The Devils had such a great season. I didn't even think that they were a playoff team last year, and they, ended up with 112 points. The Rangers, poor Gerard Gallant, 107 points. Bye-bye. See ya. He's out. And then the Islanders are inevitably going to be game 78 of the season. The Islanders need to win this game to make the playoffs. They will be in that mix. But just wrapping up this convo about those 3 teams, I rank them the same way as you. I'm not as high on Detroit. Listen, they got the job done and got the DeBrincat deal done. Wasn't really that impressed with a lot of the other moves that they've made, considering what they had to pay to get those players. I don't want to say it was a desperate Steve Yzerman, but I don't know. It seems like they wanted to speed up the Yzer plan a little bit more, and I'm not sure they did that. And I give Ottawa a lot of credit. They got forced into that trade with DeBrincat. They did the best that they could with the one team that he'd be, willing to sign a deal with, and they got what they got for him. But getting Tarasenko on a 1-year deal to come in and replace that, I think, with the year that he had last year, DeBrincat, we're not talking about a huge difference. It's not like he put up 45 for them last season. So I do think, and obviously Corpy's a huge question mark, but he has been good in the past, and I may be a little higher on him than you. But Buffalo has great young players. That power Dahlin, 1-2 punch on the blue line is going to be the foundation for that team going forward. But it does come back to goaltending, and to tie this back to the Winnipeg Jets. If Buffalo has a tough first 20 games of the season, and Devin Levi, which is entirely possible, a very young goaltender that doesn't have a great start. With the amount of talent they have that won't be playing on their team right now, Savoy, Zach Benson that just got picked, I have to think, and maybe this is how, when, if Connor Hellebuck does get traded, if there's no extension and he's on an expiring deal, maybe that is how it happens. They decide that, we're willing to move off of some of our future right now because we've got a pretty good damn team as it is. Because I think making the playoffs would mean more to Buffalo as a franchise than maybe anybody else in the league, considering how long they've sucked, how much potential that they do have. And if it's one player that's preventing them from getting it done, if I'm Kevin Adams, I think long and hard about making an aggressive move for a player like Connor Hellebuck, even without a contract. And I'll tell you what, if Helly goes in there, they have a good season, and he sees the potential going forward, I don't think he's a guy I need to be in. He's not PLD. We won't get into that. We've spent enough time, but you know what I'm saying. I legitimately think that he does want to go somewhere that he thinks he'll be paid what he deserves, and he's got a legitimate chance to win a Stanley Cup. And I think you can make an argument that in 3-4 years, maybe even earlier, Buffalo is a team, especially with those guys on ELCs over the next couple that are coming in the pipe. Buffalo is a really intriguing team when it comes to that fit.
Well, Paige Thompson at $7 million. Like they've a bunch of the guys that they've got that are off of ELCs are signed to some sweetheart deals too. So they're set up in a big way.
That
And
Thompson deal.
Tage Thompson himself is just like the greatest story of all time. I would love to see Buffalo get back in. I think they're everybody's second favorite team in the NHL, and their fan base. Outside of the Detroit Lions, man, like I don't know if there's a pro sports team that could use a playoff berth more than the Buffalo Sabres right now. So it's a very valid point. I mean, Buffalo is certainly in that mold. And I think there's a handful of other teams that, whether it be injury or underperforming, that would jump into the Hellebuck sweepstakes pretty damn quickly. If I had to pick one, Buffalo would be number one by a country mile, because you get one of the former Winnipeg Ice players in a package for Connor Hellebuck. I think you're feeling pretty good about not winning the trade, but at least coming away with some pretty damn good value. If it was Zach Benson, I might faint, but Matty Savoie would be a pretty damn good consolation prize in a Hellebuck trade.
Yeah, you get Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and one of those players for Helly. And again, I would rather keep Hellebuck. I think everybody knows that. You don't often get better by trading your best player, at least in the short term. But you got to read the room, and if they're saying that this is going to be it for him, as much as I'd love to see him play it out and be in the playoffs and see what the Winnipeg Jets can do, big picture for this team, that is the sort of opportunity that could make a huge difference in the years to come. It'll give us more stuff to talk in August before things get going. Just last one. Do you expect anything to happen in August? Or, are we going to be, let's fast forward a month and we're in the first week of September. Most of the situations in the NHL going to be quite the same, or might, because there is still a lot of things that, cap-wise and what needs to happen, might we have a more busy August than we normally do? Because usually it's dead.
No, it'll be dead. Yeah, it'll be a rough month. Yeah, I've already started planning talking points for August. I have no hope anything awesome is going to happen. So, hate to rain on the parade there. I don't think anything's going to be close to done come till training camp. And Dan will do the whole defensive logjam dance. But I don't think until maybe the first or second week of preseason, it's just going to be all systems go here. Teams are going to say the cap is an excuse that we can't make any moves, and we'll get very limited movement across the NHL, and everybody will be depressed that we didn't have a little more fireworks this offseason.
Yeah, good luck firing up some topics for skates and plates over the next couple of weeks. The Mount Rushmore of Winnipeg Jets. You got it all. Hey, man, have a great long weekend. I'm sure you got lots on your plate. Get some sleep.
Yeah, I'll get on to cup number 3. How about that instead of sleep? We'll find a way to make it work, man.
Brandon, thanks for doing this, buddy.
Yeah, have a good one. Have a great long weekend, everybody.
You too. There's Brandon Rewucki. Check out Skates and Plates for more on the Winnipeg Jets wherever you get your favorite podcasts. All right. Hey, we all know what's up tonight. And I'm not talking about the Hall of Fame game in Canton between the Browns and the Jets. I'm talking about Bombers Lions. 7:30 kickoff, IG Field. The Bombers have just announced they're over 30,000 for the game tonight. So another great crowd. Well done, Winnipeg fans. Get there early. 5:30, Princess Auto tailgate. You know what's going down. $3.50 hot dogs and pop, $5 beers. DJ Finesse spinning. Great place to get a few in yet, so you're ready to be as loud as possible for the home team when the game kicks off at 7:30. Princess Auto, of course, proud sponsors of WST and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new at Princess Auto. Shop online 24/7, 365, princessauto.com. Check them out with 2 Winnipeg locations. When you're working on the weekend, maybe on your lot, cottage, your house, you might be thinking about a few projects that you have been hoping to do. Tell you what, our friends at Consolidated Supply can probably help you with that. If you have irrigation needs for your property, they are the leaders in irrigation systems. They've worked with the golf industry for years in Manitoba. Speaking of golf, you want that dream putting green in the backyard? They can do that as well. Joe will hook you up with some artificial turf and get it installed. They're the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba. So they've got golf carts, both new and used, as well as, vehicles that, I'll be honest, don't really look like golf carts, but are made by Club Car that can help you industrially or for your business as well. You got to get down to check it out at their showroom on 1395 Niagara Road East. But they've also got great options for your property that are long weekend approved. Hot tubs, outdoor kitchens, and more. Pop by and see them for yourself. Consolidated Supply, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. And by the way, you got some small engine parts or repair needs, they got you covered there as well. On your way to the game, folks, if you need to get your Blues on, hit up Royal Sports, the official undefeated, undisputed sports superstore. Incredible selection of Bomber gear, including many exclusives that you won't find anywhere else. Not to mention Jets, soccer from around the world, Blue Jays, baseball, and tons of new NFL merch coming in just in time for the start of the season. And as I mentioned, the wait is over. The preseason begins tonight with the Hall of Fame game in the National Football League. But it's much more than just merch. Soccer, baseball, softball, tennis equipment, tons of disc golf, and a huge selection of bikes. They've got it all. Pop by and see them. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. And follow them on Instagram for the latest merchandise drops and sale information at Royal Sports Pembina. And hey, folks, if you're not able to make the game tonight, but you do want to get together with the gang to watch it on the big screen with big sound, there's nowhere better to do that in Winnipeg, regardless of what neighborhood you're at, than your local Boston Pizza. Of course, they'll be cranking the sound. The Bomber game will be on the screens, and you'll be able to enjoy some ice-cold schooners, some world-famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas, and, of course, the latest from the BP feature menu. And, hey, if you're staying home with the family to watch the game, order online and get the great taste of Boston Pizza at bostonpizza.com. All right. He's calling the game tonight. We banged out our CFL Lock Shop earlier today. Check that out wherever you get your podcast. Search the Lock Shop, and you can find it over at the Lock Shop Bets YouTube channel. But there's lots to talk to our next guest about. Tonight's game, that interesting front office move in Edmonton, and we got some friends cranking up Edmonton sports talk. Let's welcome in the man who will call the game tonight on TSN, my guy, Dustin Nielson. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Peg. What's going on?
How you doing, man? Beautiful day in Winnipeg for a big game,
It was hilarious. I had a meeting and did a couple of things downtown, and I was just driving from the rink down past the Delta and the convention center, and I did a quick look over at my phone, and you were doing a walk and talk, and I'm like, good God, he's probably right there right now. We never see each other in person that very often, but we should have been crossing paths a lot. And hey, we're going to get to some real exciting stuff that you're doing that hopefully will be more path crossing coming up. But let's get to this football game right now. I kind of said it on the little stand up. This is a big one. I mean, when you look at the Canadian Football League, where we're at right now, approaching the midway point of the season, I think there's a very good argument that when we look back at the end of the season, this could be one of the most important games of the entire year.
Yeah, you make a good point. And one of the most important games of the year. I hope it lives up to the hype. I hope we get one of the best games of the year as well. I think both teams' defenses will have something to say about that, but this is a massive game. I mean, especially considering what happened in week 3 when the Lions were out here and nobody was we knew the Lions were good, but nobody was expecting what happened in that football game, which ties in very nicely to this one, right? Because you've got the Bombers coming off a bye, looking to send a message that, hey, wait a second, you're not going to come in here and walk all over us again. And BC's a really good football team. Both teams relatively healthy as well. So it's going to be a good one, man. I can't wait to see what happens tonight.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm trying to remember week 3. I've tried to block quite a bit of it out of my memory. But honestly, all jokes aside, it was such a shock leaving the building just because of how good the Bombers have been for so long. I mean, they had not lost to a Western team at home since 2018, which is crazy in itself. Kyrie Wilson's back, which is going to be interesting to see how he plays in his first game out. But from a Bomber defensive side of things, the return of Jackson Jeffcoat to me is huge. And I know you looked at a lot of tape, and Willie Jefferson's a different guy when Jackson Jeffcoat is in the lineup. The entire Bomber defense is. And listen, they gave up 30 points. I think a lot of that was on the inefficiency of the offense, to be perfectly honest. But because of how good this BC defense is, I think this is a huge challenge for Winnipeg. Even with Dane Evans in, he's had some success, particularly last year in that game with Hamilton against the same Bomber D.
Yeah, exactly. And now it was probably a good spot for him to be in last week, just to sort of ease himself into a first start against Edmonton. I mean, that usually helps a lot of quarterbacks sort of find their groove. But
it's like a preseason game.
Yeah, this will be a different monster against the Bombers defense. That's getting a couple of pieces back and having some players that weren't there in that first week. Willie Jefferson's just having a ridiculous season at this stage of his career. Like, you just sit there and go, I wonder at what point some of these Bombers might start to fall off. And I know it's been a discussion around the offensive line, but on the defensive side of the ball, Big Hill leads the team in tackles, and Willie Jefferson's having one of the best seasons of his career at this stage of his career. So it's pretty impressive. But, you did mention, it should be more difficult for BC. I don't see them hanging 30 on the Bombers in this game. But I'll be interested to see what happens on the other side of the ball, because they only scored 6 points last time they played the BC Lions. And that BC Lions defense is still what it was that week. So this might be a kind of a grinded out 21-17 type of ball game, because I've done the last couple BC games. I've done a lot of BC games this year. And the one thing that really stood out to me a couple of weeks ago against the Riders is they just don't miss tackles. Like, there's no yak yards against the BC Lions defense. They just get guys wrapped up immediately. So that'll be something to follow along for sure tonight.
Well, and you mentioned, the other matchup between the Bomber-O and the BC defense. And the BC defense has been absolutely lights out. And people can laugh at, oh, great, you shut out the Elks twice. But they came into Winnipeg and held this team to 6 points, which was the statement game of the entire season, I think, in the league. Kenny Lawler's back, which is a huge, add when it comes to, the receiving core. But you nailed it. I mean, to me, what I'm going to be looking at from the very first play is how the Winnipeg offensive line responds to what BC is bringing, because no one's had an answer, including this Bomber offensive line. And to me, this challenge and that matchup probably is going to dictate how things go for Zach Collaros, who, if you recall back to week 3, spent half the game on his ass.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that defense is just ridiculous. Betts is having a phenomenal year. I was going through some of my prep last night. This guy's got 3 sacks, and this guy's got 3 sacks, and then Betts obviously has 10 already as well. But, you look at with BC's defense, it'll be interesting to see, because outside of that game against Toronto, when VA threw all those interceptions and some of them were taken back and then great field position for Toronto, outside of that, like, teams don't score on this defense. They've allowed 5 touchdowns all season. This defense is like that Bombers defense from a couple of years ago. Remember, Huss? It was like they never allowed points in the fourth quarter. It was absolutely insane what they were doing, record-setting pace and all that. That's what the BC Lions defense is doing this year. They're on a record-setting pace for touchdowns allowed. It was Edmonton last week, but Edmonton barely even got on their side of the field. It'll be a different thing against Lawler, who was great in his return last week. I thought, or a couple weeks ago, I thought maybe there was a little bit of rust I would have thought coming in, but he looked absolutely phenomenal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens offensively. The one thing, as I was diving into prep for this, the deep ball to Dalton Schoen has not been connecting. I don't know if that's been a thing for you guys and you've discussed it, but when they try to go down the field, and they go down the field to him a ton, they've not been connecting at near the rate they were last year. So I don't know what that is. I think if I had to guess, it would be that Collaros is being pressured more this year than he was last year, which is affecting his timing on some of these deep balls. But if you got Schoen in fantasy, which I do, maybe a big one tonight.
Well, you know what? It's funny you bring that up, because Farhan talked about it yesterday on the program. And Farhan made a really, really astute point. And part of what the goal of the British Columbia Lions defense is tonight. Listen, they might not manhandle the Bomber-O line the way they did before in the game number 1 of the season between these two clubs, but they want to keep Zach in the pocket. And if you look back to, I think Schoen averaged 20 yards a catch last season for the year. I mean, it was incredible. So many of the big ones happened when Zach was buying time and getting out of the pocket.
Getting out to his right.
Yeah.
Right? Like on the
Nobody
run,
does it better. And they had some sort of a connection. When the minute there was a little bit more time, Schoen was going to a spot, Caleros knew where it was going, and he was getting it, and he was gone. And now, I mean, whether they game plan to try to get Zach to roll out and give him more, more opportunities like that, I'm not sure. But it is pretty clear. I mean, Farhan kind of really having the pulse of the BC team. They are looking to, if anything, keep Zach between the tackles. And even if he's got a second or two, they feel pretty confident they'll be able to do that. I'll be interested to see what the addition of Kenny Lawler does, because I really do think that compounds the challenge for everybody in the BC secondary. And, listen, you could maybe focus on Schoen a little bit more when Kenny's not there. But listen, the Bombers are still coming to the table with Nick Dembski and Wolodarski and Rashid Bailey, Schoen, Lawler. Never mind Brady Oliveira in a running game that certainly can help win football games, especially in the second half. And but I mean, to me, we can talk about all those guys. This is the offensive line of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and how they can hold up against Matthew Betts and the BC Lions D-line that has been historically good so far this season.
Yeah, Betts is a terror. Like, there were a few plays over the last couple of weeks where he didn't get the sack, but he was hunting these guys down at full speed. Like, he's one that got away from the Edmonton Elks. I'll tell you that, buddy. They probably should have.
Did they just cut him?
I know he signed with BC. If I recall correctly, they kind of were just like, it's not going to work out. And both parties were kind of okay to move on. So kind of backfired on Edmonton because Betts looks like a terror on the outside of that defensive line. But, it's weird because you got by far, and no disrespect to anybody else, but I think if you were to rank the wide receiver groups in the Canadian Football League right now, Winnipeg and BC are 1-2, whatever order you want to put them in. Rhymes is going to be back for BC, so that's going to be huge as well. But I still think both defenses are good enough to cause some issues. And you mentioned Schoen and Lawler. I mean, but for BC, how are you going to guard Kenny Lawler? Well, you're going to have Gary Peters on him. Gary Peters has been an all-star. TJ Lee's been an all-star. Marcus Sales, you guys know about him. He's been an all-star. So they've got a good veteran group. And even their younger guy on the other side, Jalen Edwards-Cooper, he's got a touchdown this year. He's been pretty good as they've allowed him time to develop. So great receiver core versus great secondary. I wonder if this game comes down to if Winnipeg can get Brady Oliveira going on the ground, because the games that I've done for the Bombers, they've kind of used him in the fourth quarter to seal games away. And obviously, but can they do that kind of in the first half to control this football game against BC and maybe wear down that defense a little bit, keep them on the field?
Listen, I know you've been doing Elks games for the last couple of weeks, and there hasn't been a lot of drama in those ones, but we are due for a good Dustin Nielson What Is Happening game. And I don't know if we could have two better teams to show up tonight. The crowd's going to be ready to go for this one. The Winnipeg fans all remember week 3, and they're going to be behind it. And
I bumped into a guy today. I went over to City Place, that Tim Hortons upstairs over here. And so I went over to grab some breakfast, and I was waiting for my sausage farmer's wrap. Delicious. And some guy just like, he goes, "Hey, Dusty, week 3 revenge." And I was just like, yeah, that's happening. And I was in the elevator today, and there's this kid who's from Edmonton. I guess I met him last year. I can't remember where, at the airport. Took a picture with him at the airport. But he's got a full bomber sweatsuit on. Like, from a comfort level, I was jealous of this kid. Like a hoodie and the matching sweats. I took a picture with him. But, I mean, you get it. Here in Winnipeg, with how good the Bombers are, there's a buzz on game day, man. I can't wait to get down to IG Field.
Hey, is Dusty Jr., the Martianator, are going to be rocking the Blue 8 tonight, watching his old man do the game?
I know for other CFL fans, it's not great, but when you're 6-7 and the Bombers win 2 Grey Cups, you become a Bombers fan. So Marshall will have his Colaris jersey on tonight.
You got to love it. You got to love it. And again, it just shows that he's a very wise young man. And
his sister's a huge Elks fan still. And she's just like, I'm not giving up. I think they're going to win one. I was just like, good girl.
I love it. Love it. Got to love the faith of the Muzz. And as we spoke yesterday on the Lock Shop, this is the Canadian Football League. I mean, Calgary's got 2 wins. The Riders aren't any good. They're 3-4. Right now, folks, if you were like the Muzz, 25-1 for the Elks to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is the gang right there.
Yeah.
I love it.
The Muzz already put $10 on the Elks to make the playoffs. So we'll see what happens.
Listen, I want to talk about kind of what you guys have cooking up in Edmonton, but there was some interesting hockey news today.
Yeah, there was.
Jeff Jackson, the new head honcho of hockey ops. Fill people in on who Jeff Jackson is, because he's certainly not a household name, at least outside of Edmonton, probably. And where does this leave Ken Holland?
Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, Jeff Jackson is the longtime agent of Connor McDavid. So
You don't say.
No, I mean, to me, the Oilers today secured the future of Connor McDavid, because why in the world would he leave when the guy who managed him for the first decade of his career got the biggest job in the organization? This is not, hey, do you want to be an advisor? You're the CEO of hockey ops. He's technically, as far as the scale goes, he's above the president of hockey ops, who is Ken Holland. So we were talking about it on the oil stream yesterday. Tommy Gazzola said, like, the original plan that many people thought was going to be, Ken Holland would eventually give way to Steve Staios as GM, and, maybe he would take over. And Tommy had heard some stuff that plan wasn't going to be what ended up happening. And then today, actually, they announced Jackson. So I look, by all accounts, anybody who knows him, they speak very highly of him and his hockey acumen. It's wild that it's Connor McDavid's agent that takes over as president or CEO, I should say, of Oilers hockey ops. You don't have to be a genius to read too far into this one.
If it works and if it does come to fruition, good on them. When you've got the best player in the world, you do everything that you can to make sure that continues.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't know enough about him as far as like the other moves. I mean, maybe McDavid is just going to become the LeBron player/GM and basically being able to call the shots himself.
If it landed him 4 titles, I don't think anybody would complain. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays up. Look, it's actually a good point. Like, the NBA is a star-driven power league. That's just how it works. We talk about LeBron, but let's be honest. It's Kawhi, it's Steph, it's KD, it's all these guys. This is maybe the first time that we've kind of seen that recently in the National Hockey League, where a superstar player basically probably went to Daryl Cates and said, hey, I think my agent would be pretty good CEO of hockey operations and probably help your odds of me sticking around. Okay, done. Like, it's good to see, to me, it's good to see that the NHL has superstars operating on the level of some of these other big leagues. Like, you would know it. Patrick Mahomes probably calls some shots in KC. And this is what Connor McDavid can do in Edmonton.
Connor, here are the keys. Here are the keys to the arena. There you go. You can do with it what you will. Who you want in this office, who you want here, just put your name on this contract and stay as an Edmonton Oiler. I know you've been in Winnipeg, but I know you've kind of been paying attention, hearing from a lot of the nasties and your listeners and viewers. How's this being received in Edmonton? Are people excited about this just because it gives them more confidence that 97 will be there for long term?
Well, I think the one thing that has some people fired up, I saw Low Tide tweet out, and he's got a cult following at Edmonton Old Tide, and he tweeted out that this could be a good analytical hire. And as you know, Edmonton's a very analytical community, so I think people will like that. I mean, I've had some tweets, it's Connor McDavid's getting his friend's job in the organization and all those things, but it's somewhat of a breath of fresh air, from somebody who would be familiar with the organization for sure, considering his client basically runs it. But still, it's not a guy who played for the team in the 80s. So for some people, that'll make them happy.
Dustin Nielson is with us. He'll have the call tonight, Bombers and Lions on TSN. We cannot have you on this program to talk about some exciting developments in the world of sports media. We went through this about 2.5 years ago and started Winnipeg Sports Talk. And listen, I think a lot of our viewers that basically became nasties of the moan, the data munchers. No. you guys, we're going to have some friends in the biz. Edmonton Sports Talk getting going. Fill people in on what you and the rest of the fellas have cooking coming up starting next month.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, since what happened to you guys and you started Winnipeg Sports Talk, I've kind of been thinking at some point they're probably going to kill our station too. So we've kind of had some stuff in the hopper for a little while, sort of planning for this. And, with the oil stream and two guys and a goalie and, lock shop and all these pods that already do, it just kind of made sense that the Nielson show would become the central hub of Edmonton Sports Talk. So you can check it out at edmontonsportstalk.com. And, we'll have the Nielson show, and then we'll have the other podcasts that I do. And then hopefully in the month of August here, we've already brokered a few shows that will come in, and our team will help produce them, and we'll get them out on our platform. And then we're hoping to announce a couple more shows through the month of August as well. And possibly by the time we launch September 6th, have a full morning from like 6 until 1 in the afternoon of just live content in Edmonton. So it's a market that needs it. You know what you provided for this market here in Winnipeg. So I think look, the support has been very much overwhelming, both from a sponsor's perspective and just from a listener's perspective, and now I guess a viewer's perspective. And we still have a month to continue to hype this thing up. So by the time we launch, we think it'll be pretty good.
I just hope you have time to focus on launching the station when the hot take mitt disappeared at the nasty batch.
So our scalding hot takes mitt, we rented an office and we took a bunch of stuff from the party into the office, and I'm digging through the box from the party, the tickle trunk actually, and I'm like, man, I said, where's the hot takes mitt? And myself and Eric and Matt, who are all part of our team, none of us knew where it was. So I texted my brother-in-law who was at the party, and he kind of packed everything into that box. I said, hey, did you see the hot takes mitt? And he goes, well, I think the sailor, who's a data muncher, out of Hamilton, he flew out for the party. And because the hot takes mitt has cats on it, I guess he took it, flew back to Hamilton, wants to take it to a Ticats game. There it is. That's me having a soak with it. And then he's going to mail it back. So we're hoping that the hot takes mitt is in Hamilton right now and will be sent back to us before the show launches.
Well, listen, it is very exciting. And you know what? Obviously, we work together, and most people are very familiar with the lock shop. We're going to work on to kind of increasing that. And I have a strong suspicion there's a lot more that we can do together now, both being in this place. Maybe just a daily first take style debate over what's better, Fat Boys or Donairs. I'm sure there's all sorts of content ready to go.
I'll die on that hill. So, yeah, that'd be fun.
Well, listen, as I say, the embrace debate, Dusty. Embrace debate. Listen, folks, EdmontonSportsTalk.com is the website. Check out Dusty's feed on X for exact throw them up. For all the links as far as where you want to subscribe, both on the YouTube channel as well as the audio pods, if you want to get that stuff. And congratulations. I remember what it was like when we first kind of announced what we were doing and the amount of work that it went into before we actually did the show. You got a great team there with Awanek and obviously LTE and Gazzola and the boys. And very much looking forward to September and bigger and better things for all of us in this space. But first things first, enjoy this game tonight. Have a great call. And fingers crossed from my perspective that when these two teams meet in Vancouver later on towards the end of the season, that it will in many cases be to play for the right to host the West Final. But Bombers got to get it done tonight if they want to be in that situation, I think.
Can't wait, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff. There's Dustin Nielson. Kickoff tonight, 7:30, IG Field and on TSN. All right. Hey, folks, long weekend is here. And may I suggest you make sure that you are stocked up with Winnipeg's finest local brew, Little Brown Jug. Maybe a few 1919s, maybe a few generic lagers. Maybe you head down to the tap room before you get on with your activities and pick up a few others. Heck, try a few. And if you're sticking around the city for the long weekend, you could do a lot worse than hanging out and having a few bevies down at the Little Brown Jug patio on William Avenue. No better time than the August long weekend to enjoy some delicious Little Brown Jug. You can pick it up on William Avenue at the brewery and tap room or anywhere that sells great beer. We're keeping an eye on the Wyndham Championship throughout the weekend, as well as the Manitoba Golf Senior Championship this weekend. Of course, when we talk golf on the program, we do it for our friends at Breezy Bend. Members loving the new 7th and 15th greens that were opened just in the past couple of weeks. If you are looking for a great long-term home for you and your family at Winnipeg, one of Winnipeg's top private courses, find out more about Breezy Bend and get on the waiting list for 2024. You can find out more at breezybend.ca or give our pal Corey Johnson a call over at the Brewery and Tap Room. Over at Breezy Bend at the clubhouse. Although they do have some little brown jugs over there as well. Also, should mention the Gold Eyes are away, continuing their series against the first place Kansas City Monarchs. But the Fish are back next week. A big slate of games with some great promos as well. We had such a great time a couple of weeks ago out at the ballpark. There's still many more games, including the Bark at the Park coming up on the 12th. Get to goldeyes.com. Find out when you're going to go and get your tickets now for Gold Eyes Baseball. And when I'm away, I'll be coming back next week, hopefully with some monster pictures of fish from Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Been waiting all year to get back there, and now is the time. World-class fly-in fishing where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as great as the fishing is, the only thing better is the incredible hospitality of Pitt, Julie, the Terrens, and the entire Aikens Lake team. An incredible corporate event or outing, and even better just for friends and family. Find out more about booking into 2024 right now at aikenslake.com. And make sure to tune in on Tuesday when I return with hopefully some incredible stories and evidence of a couple monsters being pulled out of the water. aikenslake.com. Again, you can find them on Twitter at Aikens Lake. All right, Remo, let's get to the Coolbet lines today because we have a lot. Shout out to Phyllis. Just saw an X reply from Phyllis that she is riding with me at Coolbet on our special Peg City exclusive. There it is, the Winnipeg Sports Talk Parlay. The Bombers to win and the Sea-Bears to win. We're going to get to some big news on the Sea-Bears in a minute. Plus 185. As I said, for this game tonight, I like the Bombers, but I do not like the 6-point spread. I think this is going to be a hell of a football game, and I think it's going to be close. But I do think defense is going to rule the day. So I'm going to be taking the under 44.5. But for our parlay, all we need is the Bombers to win tonight and the Sea-Bears to win tomorrow night in front of a record crowd. Get in on it before kickoff tonight for the Bomber game. As I mentioned, new lock shop today with Dusty, who was just on the program. Check that out. We hit all the CFL games. Bombers -6. Tomorrow, the Argos are 8.5-point favorites in Calgary. The Montreal Alouettes, 2.5-point favorites in Hamilton. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders are a very slight home dog, +1, and even money on the money line to win the game. Our lock shop partner parlay is up, taking the home dog and the points with Calgary +8.5 against the Argos, Montreal -2.5, and Saskatchewan to win. That's up right now, +670, also in the exclusives. And Remis says, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Let's get down. We got to talk about it. Kabilis, I know there's a few fans of the art of professional wrestling, and I always get excited on one of the 2 or 3 weekends a year when we can actually bet on the WWE, and this is one of those weekends. SummerSlam goes Saturday night. Now listen, Cody Rhodes, a -116.67 favorite. Definitely not touching that. Even Gunter at 588 or Logan Paul at 400 is big. Roman Reigns, a massive favorite. Shayna Baszler. But it's very rare that you get a straight up pick 'em when it comes to betting in the WWE. And that's what we've got. Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. Listen, Seth's such a big star. He was a great first champion for this new title they've got. But I mean, the Judgment Day faction has all the momentum. I touched on this on the Lock Shop, but you got Rhea Ripley, the women's champ. You got Dominic Mysterio, who just picked up an NXT belt. Damian Priest is Mr. Money in the Bank. Finn Balor is the only one that is not dripped in gold, and I think he will be after SummerSlam. I'm on Finn Balor at -118 to win the World Heavyweight Championship over Seth Rollins. As I say, all those odds are subject to change, but if you want to get in on it now, it is a pick'em, and I'm not sure I can ever remember a pick'em in the WWE, Reem.
Okay, Brock Lesnar is +600. He's massive. How could anyone ever beat him, Huss?
You know what? Cody's a big star. Cody beat him the first time. Brock beat him last time, and this is sort of, I think, the finale. Cody's going to be a big star for a long time going forward. Brock's, I think, sort of winding it down. The loss doesn't really hurt Brock. It'd be big for Cody, who they think will maybe once again go for the belt at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. So that is why Brock Lesnar is such a big underdog and Cody's such a big favorite.
But Brock, he's enormous. How could anyone do any moves to him, Huss? He was UFC
It's a great
champion.
question. It is a great question. That just goes to show what an athlete that Cody Rhodes is, the American Nightmare.
So much bigger. Isn't there weight limits in this SummerSlam? What's going on here? How are they? How could anyone ever beat Brock Lesnar?
T-Will, LA Knight or bust. They don't have odds yet. You might want to check later on because I guess there is some sort of a battle royal, and I think he's in that. Oh, and Tico Napoli, Maxime Dupree. Oh, big fan right here. And of course, with the funniest guys, Otis and Chad Gable, the Alpha Academy. Listen, I could talk about this for a long time. It probably is driving some people nuts.
No, people have been asking us.
SummerSlam is up right now, right in my wheelhouse. So get on it if you haven't before. And hey, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST. Hook you up with a 100% bonus on your first deposit, up to $200. Remo, you all set for a big show tomorrow? Running it solo?
Massive show tomorrow, Huss. Who Ed Tate's gonna come on, start off the show. We'll recap tonight's Bomber game. That'll be fun. Ken Weeb coming on, and how about this? I'll have a conversation with CEBL Commissioner Mike Morreale. Huss, we're gonna talk about success of the Sea Bears this season, the CEBL playoffs, the league's 5th year anniversary. And I don't know if you saw the announcement today.
I did.
But they had a big press conference at Center Court at the Igloo? What are we calling the Sea Bears home arena? The ice cave?
The Polar Den.
The Polar Den that the government is going to kick in $1 million for the Sea Bears bid to host the CEBL Championship in 2025. We can talk about that as well. That's exciting. But also Andrew Collier on the Gold Eyes. Big week next week, coming a long weekend for them, which you said includes Bark at the Park.
Bark next Saturday.
Hacksaw on the NFL training camp. Strevler might get some action tonight in that Hall of Fame game you mentioned. And we'll also talk about MLB trade deadline. And also Kurt Contois on the Derby, which is on, Monday is the Manitoba Derby, which you and I got to get our picks in.
Yeah, exactly. We certainly will do that. And you know what? Maybe we'll do a tweet. For those of you that have been following the picks, and they have been great this week, we will fire out Derby picks tomorrow or on, what should I say, on Monday. And make that.
Monday. Monday we'll put them. I gotta take some time to research how many furlong. Everyone has raced at. I know. See Rob Noakes in chat. He's always good for some horse racing intel. He's talking about Heroic Move. Says it's a monster horse.
Okay. Is it? Yeah. Noakes. Oh, Noakes.
He knows.
Yeah, the tips. Rob Noakes is definitely our insider when it comes to it all. And they just announced the track, the field for the event that goes on Monday out at Assiniboia Downs. If you haven't been out to the track all year, that's the day to do it. It'll be a huge crowd and a hell of a way to finish off the long weekend. That show's shaping up. I think that may be a record for number of guests in one showroom.
It might be. That's just
Is
how
that
it's
6?
Well, I'm going solo, so yeah, we got Ed.
No, I know. Listen, it's a great idea. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
listen,
Ed, Ken. We'll talk.
Yeah.
All Rasmus Kupari signing, and we didn't talk about 55 enough today, so we'll probably have to get that.
I barely mentioned Mark Scheifele's name this week. I hope you all appreciate
everyone's
that.
been
Everyone
asking.
that was getting nuts.
Everyone's been asking for more 55 talk this week.
I know there's an element to playing the hits, but you know what? It's at a time we had to change it up. Everything has been said. We're going to wait to see what happens. And listen, for someone that has been daily, I've got opinions. This is an opinion show. But listen, there is a reality that he's coming back. And if that is the case, I, of course, hope that it goes as well as possible for the organization. And what's good for Mark this season, if he's on the Winnipeg Jets, is good for the Jets. So there's my weekly update on 55.
Ed, Ken, Mike Morial,
Hacksaw,
Collier, Kurt. I think that is 6. That's a lot of
half
guests.
a dozen. It is you know what? It's going to be a hell of a show tomorrow.
Marble race.
Be good because and the marble race
And
the solo.
what should I do? I thought about doing this because I wasn't sure if I needed to fill time, and it is Friday. I was going to do a live Puck Doku. I was going to save it and do it live on the show as quickly as I can. I just nailed today's with a 40 rarity. That's right.
Really?
Although that
I
one
haven't
kind of
seen this one today yet. Ooh, 40 rarity.
yeah. This one was kind of. You could score low. Some of them like
Still.
you can't really score that low. It's like when they throw in Vegas or Seattle, it's dumb.
Yeah.
Or they throw in one where it's like 40 goal score of a team, and that really didn't have that many. So I
got a great one. When was the one? It was Montreal and Toronto were in it, like a day or two ago.
Yeah, that was I think it might have been yesterday.
Old heads will appreciate this one. I got a 0.3 for Bunny Larocque.
Who?
The old goalie. See, you're not old enough to remember him. As a kid, I remember he had a cool goalie mask, and it just said Bunny. I can't remember if there was Bunny here or no. Maybe it was like below his mouth, like on the side. Bunny. And a cool nickname, too. The problem was I almost got it wrong because I didn't know what his real name was. And there's a bunch of Larocques that have played in the league, and I had to figure it out by the period. Like it says what years the guys played in.
It gets
and
you
that
messed
was
up.
the one. So I actually learned that Bunny Larocque's real name was Michelle. But yes, I will check the Puck Doku. I have a feeling that with what you have lined up already for tomorrow, you probably will not need the live Puck Doku. But
I'm gonna need to do the live Puck Doku. I've teased it.
Mary Jane was right. Remis is going rogue tomorrow. But
I'm
make
gonna
sure to pop in.
Yeah.
Everyone be there, support him, and be nice in the chat because usually he's there to like flex muscle, throw people over the top rope, maintain it all. But there's going to be a lot of interviewing. There's going to be a lot of talking. So WSTers, stand together and help out Remis in the chat when he's banging out 6 amazing guests tomorrow on the program and a marble race.
I did boot one guy. Duck came in and just kept writing, "Go Lions, Bombers suck," over and over again. He wrote, "You're going down with YOUR instead of YOU''RE." I don't know if he was like doing bad trolling on purpose, but after a while, I was like, all right, man, topics change. You're still randomly shouting, like, get out of here. So I tossed that guy. That was a worthy toss. So hopefully everyone is nice to me tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. Thanks to see all the chat in here. Oh, Sklardy says, Huss lit the spark on 55. Now he's dousing the fire. I'm not dousing anything. I'm just not adding gas to it. I think that is the point. I mean, as of right now, there are a number of situations with the Jets that are sort of smoldering in the corners. And we've had plenty of flames on this program. As I say, until anything happens, I mean, we can only talk about the same thing for so long. And by the way, it was a huge Bomber game this week, so that kind of dominated it. What's your call for the game tonight, Remis, before we go?
Well, his heroic move is a huge favorite here at the Derby. Tonight's Bomber game, Can I take BC to cover the 6 points? I think it's going to be really close.
No,
But
I mean, you just give me your prediction for the score. Who wins and what's the score?
okay, what's the total in this game?
44.5. I'll go first. I am going Bombers 23, BC 18.
Okay, Bombers 24,
I'm betting the under.
BC 21.
Oh, nice. Okay, that would be over by half a point.
It's going to be
very
tight.
Interesting.
It's going to be. Oh, BA split says 45-10 Bombers.
Whoa!
I think
I would love that. I will happily lose my under bet if the Bombers can lay a whooping on BC the way they did to the Blue in June.
I'm trying to look at some prop bets here. Like, what's some rec yards? Dalton Schoen's numbers at 59.5 on Coolbet. Kenny Lawler 68. I would take the over on Kenny Lawler there. For 68.
Hopefully we'll be taking the under on BC sacks because that was what stood out. Well, no, I'm not sure whether there is a number, but what did they have, 7 or 8 last time they played? That's the number that's got to come down. No turnovers, good defense, special teams, big crowd, loud crowd, getting behind the team. Started off right, long weekend style on a Thursday. Big win at IG Field, and then everybody has a great 4 days.
Yeah, 30,000 in attendance. Has you want to? And speaking of big crowds, you want to do the CEBL ticket update since they opened the upper deck. Check.
Yeah, let's do it.
Check this out. I checked it out earlier today. So we're on CEBL ticket watch for this playoff game Friday night. So these two sections, 320, 321, no longer available. They sold them out in the upper deck. 2 sections. They've opened up more. 319. I mean, look at this. Look at these 319 and 320. They've sold like the bottom half. All the loges almost gone. This section here is pretty much, except for the top 3 rows are gone.
Did they just open up 2 in the lower bowl there?
In the lower bowl.
120.
Oh,
right there.
Well, if you want to grab them now, they just came available.
2 tickets. There you go, folks. Here's our hot tip. Breaking news. There's 2 seats in the lower bowl available for tomorrow's game.
Yeah, wow. I guess if you keep checking, that's the Ticketmaster secret, Huss, is that just keep checking and they open up seats as you get closer to the event. They don't want you to know that, but
they've even sold out all the singles. Man, as excited as I am to be going to Aikens tomorrow, of all the times to, I mean, I've been at pretty much all the games all year. I'm really going to miss being there. But you'll be holding it down in my spot. Check out Winnipeg Sports Talk socials for some great picks that Remis will be taking. And as they say, if you haven't been to a game and you're in town tomorrow night, this is going to be a historic night for hoops in Manitoba and certainly for the CEBL. And as Michael will hopefully get, you know what, Remo? Really stick it to Morreale tomorrow. Say, listen, with everything that Winnipeg has done, filling this building the way they're doing for tonight's game, can you commit to us live right now on Winnipeg Sports Talk that the tournament, the championship tournament, will be coming here in 2025?
I don't think that's my style, but
it's a yes or no question, Mike.
I don't think I would do that, but I do want to hear about, the league's 5 years old. Like, where are they going here in the next 5 years? I mean, how psyched do you have to be about the CEBL's success, and what do other teams have to do to, like, match the CEBL? I saw their Instagram video today trying to pump up playoff tickets, and, man, the way their social media game, they've just nailed it this season. I think that certainly helped getting people to buy into this team and sell the tickets. And, the merch line there for Game 1 was out of control. It was more than the Taylor Swift concert, to do a callback to the beginning. I mean, it was a crazy merch line. So there we go.
One other bit of news. The Pittsburgh Penguins apparently have named Kyle Dubas as named as new general manager, Reem?
Yeah, so Kyle Dubas took the role as president of hockey operations. He announced today that he will continue as president and GM in hockey operations. They're not going to do regular GM. It's going to be him. I saw Coolbet post the meme of like Sting taking off his mask and having another Sting mask underneath, which I had to laugh at. But yeah, they've added Spezza, Trevor Daley. If you ever want to use him in Puck Doku, Stars, Red Wings, Penguins. He's now
the minute you name a player, you're like, who's he eligible with on Puck Doku?
Yeah, special assistant to president of hockey operations. They added Spezza, Leafs, Sens, Stars, to the front office as well. Amanda Kessel she's in the front office too, and a couple others. So that was the Penguins announcement. Because there's been some hockey. There has been a trickling of hockey news this week with the Terry signing, Rasmus Kupari. We're going to get so many. Me and Ken are going to talk about Rasmus Kupari for like 40 minutes tomorrow. Watch out.
Wow. Okay, get ready. A 5-hour episode tomorrow of WST. 6 guests, marble race, Remis doing a Puck Doku, which usually takes him about 50 minutes to complete. So
no, I'm going to do a quick one.
Buckle up, everybody.
First one that pops into the head, I'm just going to roll with. I'm going to see if I can do it live. Puck Doku challenge. And if you don't know what it is, puckdoku.com. Because a lot of people are coming up to me like, hey, Remo, are you good at hockey trivia? And I'd be like, you talk about Puck Doku? They're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I do it every morning. It's the game where gives you a grid. It has 2 teams or a stat category. You got to fill in the grid. So today what was it today? So actually the stat category was 100 plus PIMs in a single season. And that one was kind of tough. And you had to do a player from Flyers, Penguins. It was Blues as well as in there. Bruins, Lightning. It was fun.
Have you done what am I saying? The Immaculate Grid now has hockey too, right?
Yeah, I'm on top of that one too. I do that. I just do that one quickly. I don't really try for percentage, but
nicely done. Oh,
Immaculate Grid is the other one. If you do the Puck Doku and you're jonesing for more trivia, head over to the Immaculate Grid and click on hockey, and you can do another one. This was a good one. Cup winner.
Darrin Helm, 2% for the Wings.
How about this one? Cup winner, Shane 90. This is the ones I did. Cup winner, 90 for Bruins. Stars, I did Benoit Hogue. He was pretty good. And how about this one? 0.4%. Detroit Red Wings, Mark Hardigan. He won back-to-back cups with the Red Wings and the Ducks, 0.02%.
That's pretty good.
I just remember that they interviewed him after the game when they won. He's like, yeah, you won last year. You played like minimal games, but he won with the Ducks. We had him on 1290 actually, and it's kind of funny because I do the Puck Doku. I'm like, hey, this guy I had on with Rick Ralph, or I would always hear like Rick talking about certain guys. So that's how I know a lot of the information.
Love it. All right. Anyways, listen, we do want to get this pod up because a lot of people want to listen to it before tonight's game. A big one. Enjoy the game tonight, folks. 7:30. Get there early. Princess Auto Tailgate Zone. I will hopefully be slaying massive fish tomorrow out at Aikens Lake. Remo's going to hold it down with 6 guests, a marble race, and a potential Puck Doku bonus. Listen, enjoy it. Take care of the chat if he's busy with the interviews. And I will see you back on Tuesday to get with it. And don't forget Manitoba Derby on Monday night out at Assiniboia Downs. Thanks to Darrin Bauming. Thanks to Brandon Rewucki. Big thanks to Dusty. He'll have the call tonight on TSN. Remo will be with you tomorrow. I'll see you Tuesday. Thanks for making Winnipeg Sports Talk a part of your day. And if you were smart enough to book Friday off, happy long weekend.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.